from Anjanette Levy. But I move on to Anjanette because you actually did get some comments from Amber Heard supporters, and that was interesting because we talked so much how there's so many supporters here outside the courthouse, inside the courtroom for Johnny Depp. But you had the opportunity to hear from some people who were supporting Amber Heard. Let's take a listen.
Watching this, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart the way that she's being forced to relive all of this in front of the world. They just hate her for it. That breaks my heart. I mean, she already did the trial. I mean, she leaves court every day and people just shout at her obscenities, saying, "I don't believe you," every day. People made it into a funny TikTok trend to dance and act out her sexual assault testimony. It's just sick. That's why I care.
Do you think it's possible at all that she ever abused Johnny Depp at all?
No, I don't think it works like that.
I don't think it works like that. What
I don't really think there is such a thing as mutual abuse.
What?
Like the power imbalance. If that makes sense.
Why do you see him as the one with the power and not her?
I mean, he's older than her, richer than her, more famous than her.
So again, you're seeing mixed reactions across the board.
Steak, you can hear the sound okay? Can you hear me okay? That's why I went a little bit early.
Twitch, LLNU. It seems that everyone, including the media, are on Johnny's side. Clearly not. There are Amber Heard supporters. Do you think the jury is seeing Johnny as the victim without seeing everything we are from the outside world?
This is why this court trial is...
it is true. A lot of comments I get about people
Grim,
who are
can you hear me
supporting
okay?
Johnny Depp are looking at evidence that actually is not part of the trial. Some of audio, the UK transcript, and comparing them. And so it is important to note that the jury is only seeing, they're only evaluating this based on what they've seen these 6 weeks. Now, I really tried to keep an open mind on this trial myself, and I wasn't really familiar with the details of this case beforehand. And the thing that got me was the cross of Amber Heard and the putting forward the pictures and lining it up.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. The whole time he was on the stand, I was like,
I think at minimum she had to have
let me
exaggerated it because there's just no way some of that abuse could have been covered up with makeup, as she says. I personally...
Let me explain why this case is so important. While there's a lot of people there like, this is unnecessary, it's stupid, I don't know why anybody's paying attention to it, because this allows a man's claims that he can also be abused as being valid. And I don't know what that girl was, and that's the perfect point of what I've been saying the whole time, is that girl just went on and said, I don't believe it works both ways. She believes that a man cannot be abused. And that's why this trial is important. That's why the outcome of this trial is important. And that's why everything, I don't believe Johnny thinks he's going to win the case, but I think he wants to put the story out there to show that it is in fact that men can be abused as well. And what that girl just said, I have no idea. She came out of left field with that, but she proves the point that men are afraid to step forward because people do not believe that a man can be abused, that they are the abuser.
I think it's been said before by a lot of people that it's important to hold them to their honor. It's up to your word that you will not look at anything every time the jury's dismissed for a lunch break or for the end of the day. They're told, remember not to look at any social media. I think it's really difficult since everybody probably has a cell phone, that as soon as you pull up your cell phone, there's going to be some information there. So they're basically on their honor to do what's best, and not what's best, but the judge's ordered. And so it'll be interesting to see if, for example, if on Friday after the closing and they don't come back until Tuesday because Monday's the holiday, are they going to be able to keep themselves away from any type of social media or people talking about the case? It's going to be a real struggle, and I think it's going to be very difficult, even if they are trying their very best to stay out of the line of social media.
Well, the video
completely.
should be louder than me, but if you guys need, I can turn it
It's a tough
down.
case for them. I mean, they've been.
I just want to make sure that when I'm talking, you guys
and
can
it's just
hear me
a
when
very
they're talking.
high-profile
If not,
case, very serious issues, complicated legal issues.
Fix that.
You know, and Jeanette, we have this question from Twitch. This is from Ukes3411. As ACLU ambassador for women's rights, referring to Amber Heard, listening to
bring
these
me up
recordings
slightly.
where she curses and testified that
Let's
she
see
hits
her.
Johnny Depp, do you think she's a good fit for the role?
How about now? Does that make me a little bit louder than the video now?
In this case, and I probably don't have time to elaborate a lot, but there's a lot that we are learning about that has gone on with regard to Amber Heard and a woman named Jennifer
Oh, dude,
Howell,
he was
Nurse
so.
Debbie Lloyd. Things of that nature, maybe trying to silence
so
people.
argumentative.
The American Civil Liberties
so
Union is all
argumentative.
about protecting all of our civil liberties, First Amendment
He could have
rights,
almost
freedom of
been
speech,
listed as a
and
hostile
we're learning
witness.
more and more things that Amber Heard and her team are accused of doing to try to keep people silent and to shut them down and to harm them.
Amber
I don't
Heard's,
think that aligns with the views and the
attorneys
values of the
were
ACLU.
asking him questions, but he just became
fair statement.
He threw
I want to thank
everything out the
everybody
window
out there
as far
for
as
your
credibility
comments,
went
your
on the
questions on YouTube,
cross-examination.
Twitch, Facebook, Twitter. Really, just phenomenal. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. Dina Dahl, Ann Jeanette Levy, Karen Felicia Nance. Excellent job as questions for us. I am signing off. You are in terrific hands. Michelle Yu is back up here. We're going to jump live once
be
again
willing to
into
bet.
the Johnny
I'd be
Depp
willing to
Amber
bet.
Heard defamation trial. We'll be back.
Absolutely zero. He had zero non-bias. First of all, I don't understand why they brought him in. I would like to point out, he is another reason why I typically hate psychiatrists. Like, you could tell, I could tell just by him being on the stand the entire time, he's just solid ego. That's all that this guy is. He's just solid ego. He felt that his ego was being attacked while he was being cross-examined. This is the whole reason, like, oh, God, look at him. Look at him. He does look like Sam Eagle from the Muppets.
All right, are you seated?
All right,
Next
here we go.
question, redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh, God, this lady, Elaine,
Dr. Spiegel,
Jesus Christ.
You were asked about whether you were able to examine Mr. Depp. Do you recall those questions back and forth?
Yes.
And so if I understand your testimony, you asked twice for Mr. Depp to be interviewed by you, correct?
Yes.
Objection leading.
And
Overruled.
and then in addition to that, Ms. Heard requested twice of the court for Mr. Depp to be submitted
Oh, God.
to an examination.
I can't
correct?
believe she's
Yes.
a real
Those were
lawyer.
denied, correct?
Yes.
And now Mr. Depp is contending that it's unethical for you to provide an opinion in this case because you didn't get an opportunity to interview him. Do
Richie,
you
if
think
you'd like,
that
I can
makes
send
sense?
you
Objection, Your
I can
Honor.
send you an invite to come in here and we can
I'll
kind of
sustain the
discuss it.
objection.
All right. Is that your understanding?
That is my understanding of it.
Okay. Now, when counsel for Mr. Depp was reading to you the Goldwater rule, there were two words that he kind of went over pretty quickly, and I'm going to go over them again with you a little bit slower. And that was that the Goldwater rule was that you cannot make an armchair diagnosis, right?
Which is what he did.
Based on,
It's exactly what he
quote,
did.
Okay.
publicly available records. Do you
Oh,
recall
okay,
that?
Richie.
Yes.
Okay, now, the records that you reviewed in this case were private, were they not?
Yes.
And in fact, Dr. Blaustein's records were marked confidential, correct?
Yes.
And his deposition was marked confidential?
Yes.
Okay, and Dr. Kipper's records were all marked confidential?
Yes.
Objection leading.
And,
I'll sustain.
okay, what if any labeling was there on Dr. Kipper's deposition?
Okay, Bomber.
All the documents I reviewed were confidential, and I also signed a confidentiality agreement, so everything I looked at was confidential.
Okay, so that in fact does not even comport, that doesn't meet the restrictions that we put.
Objection leading.
I mean, so would it be fair to say that you have not, have you rendered any opinions in this case as an expert witness based on publicly available records?
I have not rendered any opinion based on any publicly available records.
Thank you.
No, he rendered an opinion based on what's been said in the
Now, you
courtroom.
were asked a number of questions
He's
about
still arm-chairing it.
narcissistic
Am I the only one
traits
that
and your
understands that?
your diagnosis or findings that Mr. Depp
I love every time
exhibited
Depp smiles, man, it
narcissistic
makes me
traits
happy.
or had that disorder. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
All right, and the question was asked of you of the whether
God, yeah,
if
his
you have
eyebrows and
5
his
of
hair all
9
over the place, like-
narcissistic traits. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
Okay. Now, one of the ones you testified before was for narcissism, it requires admiration, correct?
Yes.
What, if any, record evidence was there that Mr. Depp requires admiration?
The very people that surround him need to admire him, or they're no longer in his employment or his working circle.
What?
The second one that you discussed was sense of entitlement. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
All right. What record evidence is there that Mr. Depp exhibits behavior of needing a sense of entitlement?
So again, thinking that,
does anybody else get the
Heard
feeling that
was
she's not even
marrying
sure
him
what's going to
solely
come
for
out
his
of her
money
mouth?
and his influence, and that was the case. Was in my
Amber,
opinion,
yes, I'm
very
also on
entitled.
YouTube.
All right.
Not
And the
just
third
Twitch.
one you discussed was exploitative. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the record evidence that Mr. Depp exhibits behaviors that are exploitative?
Again, I think the whole concept of abuse is exploitative.
Okay. The fourth one was lacks empathy. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And what is the record evidence that Mr. Depp exhibits lacking empathy?
To be able to commit intimate partner violence and the control you have over someone.
I'm sorry?
Can I be heard?
Okay.
I'm just going to ask you to give the record evidence of Mr. Depp's lacking empathy that you know of.
Yes.
She doesn't. She doesn't,
Am
Jessica.
I allowed to elaborate?
Yes, just a little different than what you said before.
Okay. So
Oh, absolutely, Richie.
if so I'll make it more direct. So
If they
you're
never
not
said that he was
agreeing
talking about Johnny
with
Depp, you'd
what
think
Mr.
he was
Depp
talking
has to
about
say,
Amber.
you are no longer useful. Okay, therefore you don't
What do you mean,
really
what
care
happened?
about others for others. You care about others for your benefit. So off and on dismissing Dr. Kipper for Dr. Kipper setting some
Okay.
boundaries on substance use protocol, substance detox, is an example of lacking empathy and not really caring what other people have to say.
All right. Another one of the characteristics that you cited was envious. Do you recall that testimony?
Yes.
What is the record evidence that Mr. Depp exhibits envy?
I think jealousy is a good start for that. I think that Ms. Heard wanting to have a career, start with that beyond what she has, and the jealousy parts of.
I've got the same
Mr.
face Johnny
Franco
has right now.
And I think others comment this week, last week, Ms. Burston commented about things about jealousy. So I think it's pretty apparent.
Okay.
That Johnny's
And
jealous of her?
The next one you
Did he-
listed was fragile
that what he just
self-esteem.
said?
Do you recall that?
Did he just
Yeah.
say Johnny's
And what
jealous
is the
of
record evidence of
Amber?
Mr. Depp
So-
exhibiting that?
So fragile self-esteem would be more along the line of a cluster B trait.
What
I should
world
put
are
that
we
in. It's
in?
not necessarily
What
the
world does
criteria
this
for
guy live in?
narcissism. So it's a trait.
Tell me he's not paid.
And basically
to
what
be
that means
biased.
will be that the combination of poor self-control and rapid mood states is fragile self-esteem, fragile personality. So traits. So it go into line of cluster B rather than per se narcissistic.
All right. Now, we've seen Mr. Depp during this trial doodling and eating candy. What, if any, evidence would that suggest that
Oh, yeah,
he
he's
has
already laughing.
narcissistic traits?
Objection, Your Honor. No foundation.
Okay, so Sneakers, the reason why he keeps looking away
Now,
as an expert witness,
You
there's two reasons
were
with this
asked
specific doctor why he
about
keeps looking
the
away.
cluster
One,
B,
he wants to ensure
and
that his
counsel
explanation
for
is being
Mr.
received
Depp
by
came
the jury.
back
But
and
two,
said,
it's
are you
because
aware
he
Ms. Heard
has-
has been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder or
it's
histrionic
because
personality
he has
disorder?
a
Now, you reviewed I think you testified at the beginning, you reviewed the therapy, counseling, and
where he
medical
thinks he's
records
better. He also believes that he's better than everybody on the jury. So in a way, he's
evidence was there
explaining
that
it to them
Bonnie
because
Jacobs
in his mind,
diagnosed
they
Amber
aren't
Heard
smart
with
enough
either
to
borderline
understand why he's
personality
talking
or a
about. That's
histrionic
why he's
personality
talking
disorder.
directly to the
Objection, Your Honor.
That's fair cross. He asked the question. That's fair. Redirect.
It's beyond the scope.
It's not
Overruled.
Thank you.
So, I mean, if I could start, Ms. Jacobs demonstrated no type of personality disorder, borderline or otherwise. And on a review of Dr. Curry's records.
Objection beyond the scope of the question.
It is. I'll ask each of them separately. And you also reviewed the therapy records for Ms. Heard for Cowan, correct?
Yes.
What if any evidence was there at any time?
She got her
that he
lawyers from
diagnosed
Wish.
Amber Heard with borderline personality disorder or histrionic personality disorder.
Every time Elaine
Not
talks,
only
it
did
just
he
drives
not
me crazy.
refer to Mr. Depp as a
He's
narcissist.
extremely narcissistic.
Okay. Now, you also reviewed all of Don Hughes' records and her testing, correct?
Yes.
And what, if any, evidence did you find in any of that extensive testing and note-taking that she had found that Amber Heard had borderline
This guy looks like he
personality
could be a
disorder
mad
or
scientist.
histrionic personality disorder?
Objection leading.
What, if any?
Overruled.
None.
Okay. And you also reviewed Dr. Curry's
Oh
notes
God,
and
she's
her
so ready.
testing,
She's
correct?
got to be, Jessica.
Yes.
She's got to
All
be
right,
ready.
and what, if any, evidence did you find in any of Dr. Curry's testing that Amber Heard had either borderline personality disorder or histrionic personality disorder?
She had traits she did not meet the full, on her own evaluation, she did not have the full endorsed enough criteria to meet the criteria for borderline personality disorder and or histrionic personality disorder. She definitely had traits. She did not have the disorder by going by the strict number of criteria.
All right. Now, you mentioned in response to Mr. Depp's counsel's questions, you started to talk about battered wife syndrome. What is your experience with battered wife syndrome sometimes being mistaken with borderline personality disorder or histrionic personality disorder?
Objection compound and leading.
Jesus. Yeah. Oh,
So battered wife syndrome.
Judges given Amber Heard's attorneys quite a bit of leeway today.
PTSD has 70 symptoms of
What's up, Waja?
PTSD, and if you hear some of them, you'll see why someone might think that. They do have reliving experiences as if feeling as if the abuse is happening, even if it's not, upon reminders of the abuse, such as getting ready to use something, getting ready to use a substance or something along that line. They do have hyperarousal. They do have hypervigilance, which is very easily mistaken for the emotional reactivity of borderline personality disorder. They do have avoidance symptoms, so they avoid emotions, activities, people, and if that can't be happening, they start becoming much more anxious, much more hyper-aroused. They have disturbances in relationships, which clearly can be an issue. Intimacy problems, again, which could also resemble borderline personality disorder. So those descriptions.
You wonder if in Johnny's back of Johnny's head right now it's just dun 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 dun.
PTSD.
Thank you. Now, you also indicated earlier that you reviewed the deposition of Amy Banks, correct?
Yes.
And what, if any, determinations did you make based on her deposition from her meetings with Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard?
So Dr. Banks is a professor who at Harvard, the leading institution in America for medical schools, who's an expert on intimate partner violence. She had a chance to meet them in relationship counseling.
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
That's not non-responsive. I said, what, if anything, did you find?
Sustained.
All right. Tell the jury about Amy Banks, the significance of Amy Banks.
So what Dr. Banks found was that she fully believed Ms. Heard's version of what was going on.
Objection hearsay.
I reversed those. Let me do it again. Please tell the jury. Please tell the jury what about the qualifications of Dr. Amy Banks. This is the one who saw both Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp.
Dr. Banks is a professor at, I don't know whether it's assistant associate professor at Harvard University Medical School. Not one of the two top medical schools in the world. who specialize in intimate partner violence.
This guy is
She,
the exact
above
reason
all
why I
people,
hate psychologists,
will
man.
understand if
I just
someone is victim,
bring back the hot
perpetrator, because she does this,
psychiatrist again.
researches
Bring her
this
back.
for a living every day, and that's her qualifications. Can I say what she reported?
Then I'm going to ask you, what, if anything, did Dr. Banks indicate relating
Wow, it's almost
to
like they rehearsed this.
histrionic personality
Can I say the
disorder
next
or
part now?
borderline personality disorder for Ms. Heard?
Dr. Banks didn't mention anything about personality disorder at all. What she did mention was whom she felt gave a more accurate version of.
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
That's a credibility testimony.
Ooh, Amazon is
I
here.
think you can testify to that.
I'll
Your Honor.
sustain the objection. Next question.
What, if anything, did Dr. Banks report, not saying what the ultimate conclusion was, what, if anything, did Dr. Banks say about what was reported to her by?
Oh, every
Ms.
single
Heard and Mr.
witness,
Depp, and
every
how
single
they
witness that Amber
responded?
heard, you could tell that they were
So,
coached
Ms.
by the
Heard
legal team
discussed
exactly what to say. I mean,
in
they
trying
almost
to,
all
again,
had
as a
like
victim,
same
trying to save the
phrases.
relationship, discussed with
And when
Dr.
you
Banks
when you have
these
5, 6, 7
accusations,
people,
these facts of intimate partner violence.
you know,
Mr. Depp.
Objection, hearsay.
testify as to something that they
I think
remember.
he's
They're all
entitled to
going to
rely
have
on hearsay.
similar
and He's
memories,
not given
but
what
their wording
ultimately
is
was.
all going to be
He's
different.
entitled to
How
it.
are
So you can rely on
all,
hearsay,
all
but
of
you
her
just can't
witnesses' wording is
State
like the
the
same?
hearsay. So you can rely on it.
Yes,
All
I
right.
am, Laja.
What, if anything, did Mr. Depp do in response?
Mr. Depp said nothing. When Ms. Heard accused him of intimate partner violence, Mr. Depp said nothing.
And what is the significance?
Objection,
Objection,
hearsay.
hearsay.
Sustain the objection.
All right.
Fucking
What is the
Christ.
significance of that?
The significance of that is with
Objection, no foundation.
Sustain.
Oh,
All right, we'll move on. You were asked about MDMA and what the impact could potentially be of taking 8 to 10 of these pills. Do you recall?
yes.
Okay, and now I'm going to take you to Australia 2015. You've reviewed testimony over that, right, from Mr. Depp?
the fact that this guy's
Heard, and
here
Okay.
because of testimony that he's read.
Do you recall
It just-
that Ms. Heard also said that she found dime bags
They're
of cocaine
wasting
in
their
drawers
own
at the end of
time
that
with
3
this.
days?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's
I'm
fine.
going to
They're
ask
shooting
you, Michelle,
themselves in the
can you
foot at this
bring
point.
up 1828?
They've only got
It's
like
already
6
in
hours
evidence.
left of examination and cross-examination. Yeah, there you go. Take
And
a
if we
nice
could
long
publish
pause.
that, okay, we can, thank you. I'm going to, this is one of the pictures that was taken in Australia, and the testimony's been that these 2 canvases of Ms. Heard's were painted completely over. Is that something that could be the impact of having 8 to 10 tablets of MDMA?
Objection,
combined with
speculation.
Cocaine and alcohol?
Objection, no foundation. Speculation.
The foundation's already been laid, Your Honor, that's.
No, sustain the objection. Next question.
What, if anything, if you look at the painted canvases on this one, what, if any, evidence is
Get it out, Elaine.
that reflecting behaviors indicative of taking a lot of MDMA, cocaine, and alcohol?
Objection, speculation, no foundation.
Same question. Sustained.
Jesus, Elaine, get your shit together.
You testified earlier about property, destruction of property. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay, could you tell the jury what, how that relates to the correlating factors of risk factors for IPV?
Again, the destruction of property is a form of psychological abuse, psychological mistreatment. And so destruction of property is used as intimidation and as means of control.
Okay. Michelle, can you bring up 1829?
Can we talk about that Johnny Depp went and had Amber Heard's car completely redone by a classic car restoring
And
master
this has already been admitted, yes, thank you, Your
without her
Honor.
knowing? Like, that's
And
the
what,
type
if
of
any,
guy that's
evidence,
going to go and destroy all
does
her
this,
shit. Come on.
reflect as correlating behavior
Yeah,
to
that's why I
risk
don't go see
factors of
psychologists
IPV?
anymore. I just deal with it here.
I would say that one that demonstrates
She has a Yelp
good deal
review?
of violence.
Jessica,
and
you've got to share
psychological, abuse. I think it's pretty clear that they're trying to be intimidating. I don't think.
Objection, Your Honor.
Thank you, please continue.
It would be people who would misuse ecstasy without cocaine, are prone to agitation, suspicion, jealousy, violence. What we're seeing there would be very consistent with that presentation.
Thank you. Michelle, can you now bring up 1830, I guess? And that's already been admitted into evidence as well, Your Honor. I'd ask that it be published. And what, if any, evidence does this correlate with behavior indicative of IPV perpetration?
Again, this is intimidation, psychological abuse, where you're solely trying to emotionally.
Objection, Your Honor. Can we
Take it
be
easy,
heard?
Jessica.
Okay.
I would like to point out the difference between the red and the black lettering. The black lettering, Johnny's already admitted was him. And they tried to prove that Amber most likely wrote the red. If you look at the letter T's, in the black lettering, the T's are like a cross, right? Like a cross. In the red lettering, the T's are like capital T's. Why would there be?
Dr. Spiegel, if you,
they don't even
if you can answer the question, what, if any, evidence is this correlating to the risk factors for IPV perpetrator?
Again, I think the violence comes through.
Objection, Your Honor.
Just the evidence of risk factors, if you can.
The evidence of risk factor would be accepting a more than average degree of violence, as well as psychological abuse.
Okay. Are you aware of any record evidence of Ms. Heard writing on walls, mirrors, countertops, or painting canvases?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. You can take that down now. Now, you were also asked about Seroquel and some of the other prescription medications. Did you, during the course of your review of evidence, see the lists of medications that Mr. Depp was on at one point?
Yes, I read that list.
Michelle, I'm going to ask you to bring up Defendant's Exhibit 301. And Dr.
This guy's entire testimony so far has been
I'm going to ask you to take
speculative.
a look at this. Is this
I have
one
no
of
idea how it's
the
been allowed
documents
to-
that you had that reflected the amount of medication that Mr. Depp was on as of October 26, 2014?
Yes.
Okay. And this was an email from Debbie Lloyd
Seroquel
to
is
Dr.
definitely a
Blaustein,
Pokemon.
his treating psychiatrist, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you tell the jury that we've got Seroquel, 50 mg? Can you just
Objection,
tell,
hearsay.
can you just tell the, I haven't finished asking the question yet. So,
Let's approach.
okay.
So the judge has had more than enough of it when she calls them to approach. She's like, listen, both of you, come here. I'm about tired of this. He is, Richie. What I don't get is this guy's entire testimony has been speculative. And he's basing his speculation, he's basing his, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, diagnosis, which even though he says he's not giving, he is, but he's basing it off of what's been said in court. Oh, Whitney, fuck you.
So can you scroll up just so I can see all of them?
I know
at
I'm
the
not
same
supposed
time?
to swear, but I don't care.
Thank you. So, Dr. Siegel, if someone was taking 50
Megapints.
milligrams
You're looking for
of
megapints.
Seroquel, 25 milligrams of Seroquel, and 50 milligrams of
Oh my God.
Seroquel, and 50
Spit it
all
out,
in
Elaine.
one day, how would that impact them?
So obviously this is not for sleeping, because I'm presuming you're not wanting to sleep in the
Yeah,
morning.
it's his interpretation.
Noon,
Yeah.
and from 4 to 6, although you're sleeping at night. What I would say is he's using it for one
Yeah,
purpose.
exactly.
As I said, with
That's
substance
what it
use disorder, they're using it to calm down. They're using it just as a down to relax. And given that you're taking 45 milligrams of Adderall a day to stay awake, and that's more than the prescribed for adults and children, for that matter.
I'd like to point out that I was
the combination
prescribed
makes very little sense at all to me.
30 milligrams of Adderall.
And if a
twice
person
a
was
day.
taking 300 milligrams
when I
of
finished my Adderall.
Neuroquin, I'm going to pronounce that wrong
You're
again.
right.
4 times a day and 600 later in the day, how would that impact?
Again, you're looking at medications that are there solely for a substance use disorder patient to get them up and to calm them down. That's all this regimen is about. Gabapentin doesn't have a psychiatric indication other than, actually doesn't have a psychiatric indication, although it does calm you down. And as I may have intimated before, similar to Adderall, gabapentin is also abusable. Simetaquatide and Seroquel is also abusable. So you're getting these kind of unusually calming effects from these medicines, while at the same time getting.
And I would like to point out that I did not
dose or an excessive amount.
I was not excessively awake.
And for the record book, adults are only indicated with Adderall for the extended release, not the immediate release preparation. And why that's relevant is the immediate release preparation is more abusable. You get more high quicker. The extended release goes out throughout the day. The immediate release gets you up right away and then down. Now, in ADHD, this medicine is very effective.
They do pick some up for me because I haven't had it since I got out of the military. I'm all over the place.
No.
All right. Do addicts lie?
Yes.
All right. Now, you were asked
do
about
non-addicts
Mr.
lie?
Depp passing out.
Do people
you
lie?
recall reading testimony
What was the point of that question?
Mr. Depp passing out in the bathroom in his vomit?
Yes.
Okay. Does that help refresh your recollection of what you
Yes.
recall?
I mean, for the record book, I don't think that falling asleep with ice cream on you is a.
Objection beyond the scope of the question.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I don't think taking Seroquel at night and falling asleep with ice cream on you is not what Seroquel is indicated for. It's not meant to put you out in a state where you don't even be able to stay awake to put ice cream away.
All right. Michelle, if you can pull up defendants 1090. It's already into evidence.
Did somebody even attempt to prove that he was on Seroquel
publish
in
that
that
to the
photo where he
director,
was
Your
passed
Honor.
out with the ice cream on his
Dr.
lap?
Spiegel,
Or is he
does
speculating?
this look like, would this be evidence correlating with behaviors consistent with IPV perpetrator risk factors?
This would be correlated a person who is
Bomber, do you have a camera or no?
knocked out, and there's usually only one way someone gets knocked out that badly, and that's with pharmacological assistance, whether it be legal or
Yeah.
illegal.
What
They
color
make
is
it
this
to the
guy?
bed. They don't sleep with their head on a game box in a furniture. That doesn't happen to people who sleep, no matter how tired you are. No matter how tired. I've been a resident in the past, and I was up for.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is
45
Bomber
hours.
joining
Objection
me.
beyond the scope.
Bomber.
Sustain.
All right. Michelle, can you pull up 1095, please?
You might want to go into your settings and boost up your microphone, Bomber.
Testing, test.
I can hear you okay. Just not really when they're talking.
And I'm going to ask you the same question, Dr. Spiegel. What, if anything, does this indicate relating to risk factors for IPV perpetrators?
Again, colloquially passed
Yeah.
out, and there's very few ways to get like that without pharmacological assistance,
Okay.
legal or illegal. Anyway.
Alcohol makes me do that.
Let's pull up the 1094, please, Michelle. Defense, and that's also been admitted.
You fell asleep with a pizza in the oven? Whoa.
And now we have the ice cream picture.
Which earlier he said
And
was vomit.
What, if any,
And he's like,
indication
well, I
does
was
this
told it was vomit.
have?
No, he assumed it
Probably could
was.
see how I could mistake that.
Objection, speculation, no foundation.
what, if any, correlation, what, if any, evidence does this indicate correlative?
Is it better if we
with the
change it
risk
like this for
factors
people that
IPV?
need to see the closed captions?
This proves major risk factors and precipitating factors for intimate partner violence.
Objection, move to strike.
All right, sustained, I'll strike it from the record.
That's what I'm talking about. Oh, that guy's getting frustrated.
We'll just move on.
Yeah, let's just move
You were
on. I'm
asked
not
about
prepared to.
earpieces.
think of
Do
things on my
you
own.
recall reviewing Tracy Jacobs and Joel Mandel's depositions?
Yes.
All right. And do you recall them both testifying that Mr. Depp had someone on salary to feed him his lines?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you
He's already
testified that
said
you reviewed
he never was
substantial
fed his
amount
lines.
of
He was
evidence
fed
in this
lines
case.
from somebody else
Did you
if they
find
were ad
any
libs so that
evidence
he could
that Amber
properly
Heard
respond to them.
exhibited conduct
If they
or
weren't on
behaviors
screen
indicative or consistent
with
with
him.
any of the risk factors for perpetrators of IPV?
That's normal when they're not on screen.
Sustained.
I need
Well,
you.
it
I do
was
need you to try to
suggested with
boost
the
it up again.
borderline
Bomber.
personality.
Sustained.
Just turn off the auto leveling and then
But you
just
did
move it up to like
find that from
130
Mr.
or
Depp, correct?
Yes.
140.
Okay. And did you find record evidence that Mr. Depp had a substance abuse disorder?
Severe substance
Is that better?
use.
Did
Little
any
bit.
of the questions asked by Mr. Depp's counsel change any of your opinions in this case?
Nothing there, no, not my opinion has not been swayed in iota.
Okay. Do you hold them all still within a reasonable degree of medical and psychiatric probability or certainty?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Spiegel.
All right, thank you. So you can have a seat in the courtroom or you're free to go. Thank you.
Yeah, get the
Alright,
fuck
your
off the
next
stand. Jesus Christ. That guy
The
was
next
horrible.
witness is Catherine Arnold.
Catherine Arnold.
Who?
Who the fuck is Catherine?
I just want somebody when they walk by Whitney just to smack her right across the side of the head. Just. Would it be worth it for the arrest? Absolutely, it would.
Yeah.
I'll take the assault charge. Dude, I guarantee once he started getting defensive on the cross-examination, the jury just threw his. I've been a juror before, and I've seen people get defensive
Thank
like
you.
that. I'm like,
Will you please state your
oh,
name
this
for the
guy,
record?
this guy, all of his credibility has been
Catherine
lost.
Arnold.
Exactly.
And what is your profession?
I am a entertainment industry consultant, and I also serve as an
Hello, madam.
Okay. And can you please tell the jury your educational background?
Yes. So I've been in the entertainment industry for over 20 plus years.
Just move
I
the
started,
microphone, lady. You don't got to lean over
as
here.
an
Jesus Christ.
assistant
Not know
at
how this works?
ICM, which is one of the largest talent agencies in Los Angeles that represents actors, writers, directors. And I worked with the talent agent there. And then I also worked at William Morris, for William Morris as a script reader. So I was working on
Did you
scripts
read
that they would
scripts
deliver,
into
and
Johnny's
submitted
earpiece?
to for their actors, writers, directors. After that,
Are you the
I
one?
went
Are you the one
into
that the last doctor thought was
development
reading all of the
of
scripts in his
film
earpiece?
and television projects for a
Probably.
company based in New York called the Maltese Company, which actually produced
One of the things that I can understand
television shows
giving some
and
information
films based
about
on
the
Wall
person
Street,
that's on the stand
animated product, like toys.
as background.
And
so
then
that
I
you know who
went
they
to
are.
work.
Bomber.
with a
Which
company
microphone are you
called the
using? The
Goober
one on
Peters
your
Company.
headpiece?
And Goober Peters
Because it
was,
sounds like it's
at
coming
the
from a different
time, one of the
microphone. It
largest
doesn't sound
production
like it's right
companies
next to
in
your
Los
mouth.
Angeles. They did films like Batman and Rain Man and Tango and Cash. They did TV shows like Witches of Eastwick. And there I was involved in the development of scripts.
I wonder
We
if it's
worked with
picking it
the
up from
studio
your.
directly in terms of what cast would be attached to the scripts and brought
That's better.
directors and talent to those projects.
Now it sounds like it's
Then I
coming from that
went on
microphone.
to
Yeah. There you go, buddy.
There we go.
work in.
So what were you saying now?
I understand
It's a lot.
getting
I
some
went on
background
to
information
work
about the person
in the
that's on the
independent
stand.
film world as
For
a
whatever
film
reason,
producer. So
her
I found
attorneys
the
want to
material,
know,
I
like,
did the financing,
their
I did the
entire work
cast,
history,
the director,
where they
all
went
the
next,
development,
where they
all
went
that
next, where they went next.
And
It's
then
like
you would go and.
you're spending 45 minutes
Either through equity sources,
finding out who
international
this
sales
person
and financing
even
and
say a
bank
word.
financing.
Yeah.
And
It's
then
like-
I also went
Go
on
ahead and
after
turn your
that.
volume up more on that
I
mic too.
produced 5 or 6 films with actors that you may know, including Salma Hayek.
Yeah, and I don't have a
Vincent
problem with it.
D'Onofrio,
Listen, the
Kirstie
reason why I'm
Thomas
so willing to talk
Jane,
over this,
Ethan
lady, is
Hawke.
because Nobody
then
watching my stream
worked
right now
with
gives two
a
shits what this lady's work is.
international sales and production company where I was the head of production, and I worked again on the
ask
development of
these types
scripts
of questions
and
so that they can ramble on
procurement
for a
of
good
financing.
20 minutes.
So I worked in
and
both the
waste their
independent
time.
world
They
and the
have
studio world,
a
meaning
finite
independently
amount of
financed or
time that
financed
they get
by
to examine
the
and
big studios like
cross-examine.
Warner Brothers
And this is
Disney
just
and Paramount
burning it.
and
This is
such
just
as that.
burning it.
Uh,
Go
that's
ahead and
the-
explain to
that's
the
the
jury for the
bulk
next
of my
15,
work
20
in
minutes
entertainment.
all
Any
the
of your
things that you've
films
done in
win
your life.
awards?
Is that better?
A couple of them did.
Yeah.
So a couple of the independent films that I produced, one of them won called Coriolis.
They're trying to get her.
Venice Film Festival in its category.
They're trying to get her to
and then I also produced another
essentially
film
lay a
that won the
foundation of
Heartland
what
Film
makes her an
Festival Award. It's
expert
called
witness
Crystal Award.
based on the questions that they're going to ask her. That's
And
why
what
they're
other
asking
video
her to say all
production
this.
projects have you been involved in?
So throughout that time, in between those jobs, I also worked in the corporate world. So large studios like Warner Brothers and Disney and CBS would need corporate videos for their live events. So I would interview executives and interview their talent and then edit the piece together to create
You want me to turn them down a little bit?
video and media
I can do
for
that.
their live sales conferences that they had at that time.
Let's see.
And then I
Let
also
me see if
produced some
this helps.
commercials.
All right. And what, if any, experience did you have in corporate
How about that?
relations
Is
and
a little bit?
licensing?
Is that too low or is that good?
So early on in my career, I worked at
That sounds like a good
the,
balance.
Los Angeles Olympic Organizing Committee, and I worked
Hey,
in
pig.
the licensing department where we handled the licensing of the Olympic logo, and we also worked with sponsors and suppliers who were funding those Olympic Games. So it was
The
a
fuck
lot of
what does the Olympics have to do with?
negotiations with the use of the license of the logo, as well as raising money.
Is
for the
anybody else
games and
confused as
working
to
with
what this
those,
part of
corporate
her
sponsors throughout
testimony
the
has
2 years
anything to do with
prior
anything?
to the games and then during the games themselves.
Like, I can't
So what
even
if any
imagine what that
experience
would
do
be
you have working
needed for
on
to lay
film
a basic
festivals?
foundation.
I have no idea.
Well, I've had
But
films and
it's-
festivals. I've actually been very lucky to travel the world and gone to a lot of festivals with my films, both here in the United States and elsewhere. And at one point, I was also hired to raise sponsorship funds for the Sundance Film Festival. They had a new program that they were starting to do online festivals, and so I raised about $500,000 for them in about a month.
What is the point of?
Do you have a degree, a college degree?
Yes, I graduated from UCLA with a bachelor's degree in economics.
What does your current consulting practice entail?
Holy!
So as
By
an
the time we start getting any
independent
real
business in
questions,
both the independent and the
we're gonna be an
studio
hour
world, as
in.
both a producer and an executive. I work with investment companies and production companies who are looking to navigate the various inroads of Hollywood. It's a pretty, it's a business that's very different and unlike anything else and very relationship based. So I use my 20 years of experience to help them get cast, get financing, understand the distribution process, marketing process, and get them set up to be able to produce their
there's an
films.
echo.
Have you ever testified as an expert witness in the field?
There's an echo of
Yes.
the audio coming
How many
from the
times
stream,
does it
not
exist?
us, but from the
I've been
video.
involved in somewhere between 85 and 100
Interesting.
cases as an expert, from the beginning stages to testifying in court.
And
How bad is the
have you
echo?
testified as an expert on
Wow.
damages and defamation cases?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and approximately how many times have you qualified as an expert on that?
On defamation,
Yes.
I believe
Is it still there pretty bad?
3 or 4 times.
Okay. And have you ever been admitted to testify?
I'm wondering if it's
as an
because my
expert on
microphone is turned
damages?
up too high.
Yes.
Okay, and how many times? have
Oh,
you-
and picking up your speakers.
Yeah.
Almost all my cases have some form of damage, economic damage related to the case. So I would say in all of the cases that I've testified in, I have been qualified in damages.
Okay. Have you ever served as an expert for both, have you served as an expert for both plaintiffs and defendants?
I'm sitting here
Yes, I
listening to it right now on my phone. I don't really
How
hear
much of
it.
your current practice involves consulting as opposed to serving as an expert witness?
It's gone away now.
So
Okay.
over the
It's
last
probably-
10 to
yeah, it
12
was
years,
probably
it's
getting
been
picked
about
up from my
50-50,
microphone.
So I spend half my time working as a consultant and the other half working with lawyers on their cases.
Your Honor, I'm going to move to qualify Catherine Arnold as an expert in the entertainment industry standards and practices and related economic damages.
All right, any objection? All right,
And the
so-
related economic damages.
Now, you have a dual role here as an expert, correct?
Yes,
Now, you're going to be testifying with respect to Mr. Depp's challenges to, or claims of damages, and you're also going to be testifying to Amber Heard's damages, correct?
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm going to start you with Mr. Depp's claims for damages.
Okay.
Goody.
With respect to Mr.
Oh,
Depp's
yeah.
claimed damages, on what subject have you been asked to offer your opinion?
So I was asked to assess any alleged damages that the op-ed piece in the Washington Post that Ms. Heard wrote, whether that
Oh, that
impacted
she
his
did write it now.
career in any way, particularly did he lose any income or any economic opportunities because of the op-ed piece specifically.
All right. And have you been asked to limit that to the period of December 18, 2018, with the date of the op-ed, through November 2, 2020?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what materials did you review in making your analysis?
There were a lot of documents. I reviewed the pleadings of the case, the complaints, the discovery items, the responses to what they call interrogatories, which are the questions that the lawyers ask both sides. I reviewed Mr. Depp's deposition testimony, which there were volumes of that, as well as Ms. Heard's. I also
this is going to be another
testimony of
trial
the experts that
testimony
were
expert.
proffered that had to do with the entertainment industry, the agents and the management teams.
Oh, you can tell. She always knows when the camera's pointing directly at her. Look at her.
Oh, yeah.
I also reviewed emails and texts.
Jesus,
between
she's
the
so
parties,
creepy
between
looking.
their families, between their management teams, the audio recordings, the visual recordings that have
Staring
been
into my
presented
soul.
in this case and the previous cases that have been
it.
involved in the last couple of
Pay
years.
attention.
I also did my own independent research from general publicity and press.
She's
and
watching that
investigative
jury.
articles,
She's
as
watching
well
that
as those
jury.
that are specific to the
So,
entertainment industry.
if anybody wants to know, the
and
reason why
utilize some
the
entertainment
witnesses, the
industry
expert
specific sources
witnesses,
to get
talk
some
directly to the
information that was
jurors
helpful
is
to my
because
case,
it's
to
their
our- to
job
that case.
to
Thank you,
let
Ms.
them
Arnold.
know
Please
their
describe for the
opinions.
jury
They're specifically
your,
being told, please describe to the jury.
observations
So
with respect to
they're
Mr.
trying to
Depp's
get
career
communication,
trajectory.
connect with the jurors.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Depp has had an extraordinary career over many years, so it's a long one to look at. Obviously, he was a rising star in the late 80s and in the 90s, starting with 21 Jump Street, and you've heard, all the films that I'm sure he's been in. He really started to break through when he worked with Tim Burton, the director, and of course, his character Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean was, world renowned. And probably his biggest role. And he was, a well-liked, both critically and within the industry and within the public as a movie star. And at the same time, his behavior and both on and off the set, in his personal life and in his professional life, start to interfere with what we would say, what everybody saw was his great talent. And it started, there's some stories of issues that started back in the 80s and the 90s, but I would say really in the mid-2000s, between 2006 and 10, is when the behavior started affecting his work to a certain extent in terms of lateness on set. And then as Ms. Jacobs, his talent agent, discussed with you in her deposition, it really started to affect her ability to get roles and the industry's willingness to work with him, given the issues that he was having with both behavior, tardiness, drinking, and the drug abuse, and other issues in his personal life. So it got more complicated for her to find
I need
a
a
role.
bump
It
right
got
now.
harder for production
I could
companies
so go for a
studios
big
to hire
long line
him
of
due to
cocaine.
the challenges that would put him.
And when did Mr. Depp's career begin, based on your review of all the record evidence?
Well, again, according to Ms. Jacobs, his agent, she mentioned that it started getting more
Can't
challenging
say the
for
same
her
thing about
in
Amber's films because she's only been in 3 of them.
The lateness, on set was being made, she was being made aware of that more and more often from production executives and the producers that she was working with.
Yeah, I would like to point out she also couldn't produce
And
tears when she was having to cry
on the
in the
other
movie
films,
Zombieland when she was on the
including
couch
Mordecai
explaining the guy that was attacking
Murder
her.
on the Orient Express, and in around 2014, when he had the appearance, it was presumed that he was under the effects of alcohol at the Hollywood Film Awards in 2014.
Objection, Your Honor, non-responsive.
Yeah.
He's answering the career downturn. Overruled. Please continue.
Thank you.
Oh, she looked pissed off by that. She didn't like that objection.
When Mr. Depp appeared in the Hollywood Film Awards, Ms. Jacobs received many phone calls
can't
from
forget
both
her,
producers
critically acclaimed role in Magic Mike.
asking her what is going on with your client, why, what's going on with his behavior, can we get him under control? And then I think it really started to shift around the Private 5 movie in Australia with, again, the lateness and the issues with the finger that stopped production and things of that nature, and then it got harder and harder.
Now, based on your analysis, what has caused Mr. Depp?
Are you guys getting the echo again? Just let me know if you do.
Objection. No findings.
Slightly.
Slightly?
Can you please repeat the question?
Based on your analysis,
I'm just trying to make it so I can hear
what has
now.
Mr. Depp's career downturn? And I realize you've said a number of those, so is there anything else?
Sure. Well, we talked about the erratic behavior, the tardiness, the drugs and alcohol abuse, and the lawsuits have had a really big impact, not just this lawsuit, but previous lawsuits that Mr. Depp has been involved with, because there's a lot of publicity around anything that he does. And every time he has filed a lawsuit, it has brought to light various issues with respect to whatever that lawsuit was about, whether it was about.
Does anybody know how many other lawsuits he's brought up?
Domestic abuse or drugs.
I have zero idea.
And even spending habits. So every time a lawsuit has been filed, the press and the publicity has just been charged up and brought everything back to light. And it's
The only thing that I know him to be in the public eye about is this.
on that level for the industry to continue to work with him, even though all this is out in the public.
For the films that were shortly before Pirates 5, how successful were they? I'm talking Mordecai, Alice Through the Looking Glass. I think you testified.
Oh God, don't bring up Dark Shadows. Don't bring up Dark Shadows.
Right.
Objection, compound.
Or the Lone Ranger. Oh my God.
Of course, Mr.
The Lone
Depp.
Listen, I like the Lone Ranger.
Films, but also in the, the
I actually have never watched
prior, and through Pirates, there were films that didn't do well at all and were considered what the industry calls a bomb, which could have been Alice Through the Looking Glass, The Transcendence, the Lone Ranger, and Mordecai were films that just didn't perform, although they were valued in their financing based on Mr. Depp's star quality and acting ability.
So Johnny Depp is the only reason. She's saying they're trying to prove that Johnny Depp is the only reason these films flop.
And what, if anything, did Mr. Depp do with respect to showing up for a press conference in Japan for Mordecai?
Ms. Jacobs mentioned in her deposition testimony that Mr. Depp didn't show up for the press conference in Mordecai, which he was not only an actor for, he was also a producer, and he didn't show up.
Well, they've already said they already had one witness, one expert witness.
No. What, if
that
any,
said,
impact did the
Aquaman
Brooks
was
litigation have on Mr. Depp's career?
Greatest performing film of all time. So
is the jury familiar with this already, or?
Well, I think you can,
Okay, so the Brooks litigation was, it was.
Yeah, I'm with you, Grim.
There was a litigation around Mr. Depp had punched someone on one of the, I think it was a location manager on the set of a film called City of Lies. I don't know exactly what happened to that litigation. However, of course, again, it was written a lot about in the press, and unfortunately came to the forefront that he had, violent behavior yet again.
So in 2018, and I'm going to say before the op-ed on December 18, 2018.
Now, did she witness this, or is she just essentially giving what she's heard
about Mr. Depp?
Basically what she's heard about.
For quite a while, when you're a celebrity such as Mr. Depp.
So her entire thing is
and
essentially
everybody wants to look
speculation
at
and
everything
hearsay.
that happens. So after every movie or after every incident, there was usually press. But the ones that were more significant were the ones in the Hollywood, a couple of them in the Hollywood Reporter and one in the Rolling Stone. So in 2017, there was an article in the Hollywood Reporter where the journalist discussed, I think the article was called Pirates of the Caribbean, The Diminishing Returns of Johnny Depp. And that
bringing up these articles again.
The last one was 5.
Yeah, these hit pieces.
And that one didn't perform nearly as well as the other previous Pirates of the Caribbean films. And there was some discussion that the character.
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
I think you could explain generally.
Sustained.
Okay. Let me ask you this. When was that Hollywood Reporter article on diminishing returns of Johnny Depp?
I mean, you're talking about sequels. How many sequels has anybody known that to outperform the movie before it? Whether it be, part 2, part 3, part 4.
It performed
they all
less well
go step down
$200 million.
in earnings.
Okay.
So
what if any other negative press was there in this time frame? We'll take 2017, 2018, before the op-ed.
So in 2018, there was.
You guys want to talk about
Stone's
performance? Wait till
article
Johnny
that was an
Depp's
in-depth
next
expose
movie
on
comes
Mr.
out.
Depp's life. Again,
That
his
movie's going to
erratic
break
behavior,
records in the box office.
The money he was spending on wine.
Objection, Your Honor, hearsay.
I think she can give generally, Your Honor, the negative.
Sustained.
All right. What, if any, knowledge do you have
She's
of
just so pathetic.
whether Disney saw the Rolling Stone article?
There were emails between the publicity department and the co-chairs and some of the senior executive Disney that they would forward the articles as they came out, both the Hollywood Reporter article and the Rolling Stones article, and they would make commentary. And Alan Horn, who is the one of the co-chairs of Disney, used the word sad. And I think one of the other executives used depressing, that their film star was now being shown in this light to the public in a Rolling Stones.
Objection, hearsay.
I just, all right. Was there any more
Sustained.
articles about Pirates of the Caribbean prior to the op-ed in December of 2018?
There was an article in October 28th, the Hollywood Reporter, October 28th, 2018, where the journalist had spoken to 2 writers of the film, and they were talking about
Objection,
the
hearsay.
franchise.
She's entitled to rely on hearsay, and she's just giving the general, she's not.
Oh, we can do that. We can do that, Richie. You need to bring that up to Dan. We're the jurors. We're the jurors. The judges from our American Idol are the jurors. I have an objection. It's a job. Do it. Okay, I'm going to take this moment to mute myself and switch out my dogs and feed the pigs. So I'll be right back.
I mean, come on, can't we just can't it just be all hearsay? I mean, that's fine, isn't it? I mean, really, can't no, we can't. No, you actually have to have some facts. This is the court of law, not what. But then I don't have a case, Your Honor. Yeah, that's too fucking bad, lady. You're a fucking idiot.
Without saying what the article said, say what it's about.
Okay. So in October 28th, the article was about whether the Pirates of the Caribbean
Objection,
franchise
hearsay.
would be rebooted without. Please continue. In the article in October 2018 was about whether or not the Pirates franchise was going to be what they call redefined without Johnny Depp. And that was regarding 2 writers that were on the project.
Okay.
And there was one other one I'd like
Okay,
to
go
talk
ahead,
about.
please.
So there was another article, there was an expose on the president and production. It was also in the Hollywood Reporter. And this is the one that Mr. Marks,
All right, what I miss?
Depp's expert, pointed to
They went and
regarding the
had
op-ed
a
on
sidebar.
his career. And The online article
about
was
basically what she
Marks
can say.
pointed out, published on December 20th of 2018, but the same article was
I hope
in print
cross-examination doesn't
on the
spend
morning
much
of
time on
December
this lady.
18th, 2018, which is the same morning of the op-ed. So that Hollywood Reporter article that Mr. Marks used to say.
Objection, no foundation.
Please continue.
Mr. Marks had used that article to show that Disney wanted to let go of Mr. Depp because of the op-ed, but it was actually printed in the Reporter the same morning that the Washington Post article was printed. So there's no way that the Washington Post article had any impact on what the Hollywood Reporter journalist wrote.
See what the next Pirates of the Caribbean does without Jack Sparrow, and then compare those numbers.
And the one that was 2 days later was the same article, just online?
Same article, it's just online, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Now, what, if anything, was there about press in 2018 relating to the Sun and Dan Wooten and any litigation that
Right,
Mr. Depp was bringing?
So a lot of press was about the UK trial in the lawsuit that Mr. Depp brought against the Sun in the UK about the white.
For my one Twitch viewer, thank you so much for supporting my Twitch.
Around that, both at the time that it was filed and throughout as documents
I
were being
appreciate
shared
it.
with the public, and then, of course, during the trial itself.
Okay. And what is your understanding of when the article, the wife beater article, first appeared?
The wife beater article?
About 6 months before the op-ed piece.
And what is your understanding of when Mr. Depp filed suit against the Sun and Mr. Wooten?
By the way, can we just point out that
Again,
YouTube's captions
2018,
suck?
Okay.
Yeah.
June, would it be? Would that, would it refresh?
I feel like they're being
refresh your
typed
It
by
was
a
in the
drunk
spring or
monkey.
summer of, it was fairly shortly after the article, so it was long before the op-ed piece was out.
Okay. And what, if any, impact did Mr. Depp's litigation in the Sun case have on his career?
That was a really tough one on Mr. Depp's career because everything, every allegation of abuse and every text, every email, all the audio, all the visual stuff was brought to light and made public. And so not only did the public get to see it, but the industry was watching closely, and it's hard for
Wow, YouTube viewers just dropping off. You guys are bored as shit of this lady, aren't you?
Be connected to a star that has texts about burnt corpses and violent behavior in video. So it was a big conflict for a lot of
Burnt corpses? What did I miss?
Navigate
What about corpses?
work with the star.
And what, if any, impact did Mr. Depp's other litigation against Mandel?
Wrath is saying he's doing the
have
captions.
during that time period?
As I was trying to say earlier, every time Mr. Depp brings a lawsuit, because he's such a well-known public figure, the spotlight goes on him. So every time a lawsuit was filed, whether it was to his against his business manager, against his former lawyer, even when he fired his talent agent, it becomes news. And then everybody talks about what would have preceded that. Why would that lawsuit have happened? And then they look at the details. So again, the erratic behavior and the financial issues and the drinking and drug abuse.
Oh, no, it only counts active viewers.
Every one of those, and it was brought to light yet again.
I just
each
keep
time.
losing the YouTube
What
active
is your
viewers.
understanding
I
of
went
Mr.
from
Depp's
like
claims
24 to
regarding
now it's at
Pirates of the
13.
Caribbean
People are just bored of
6
this lady.
and how that impacted?
Well, Mr. Depp is claiming that he's lost money on Pirate 6, but Pirate 6 hasn't even been made yet, nor is there even a script that has been what we call greenlit, moved towards production. So I don't know how you lose something that hasn't happened. So I think that's what you're looking for me to.
And in fact, since
I think that's what you're looking. I think that's what you're looking for me to say. Yeah, I think this is what we
And that
rehearsed,
hasn't
correct?
happened. Is there any way he could claim damages for Pirate 6?
Well,
Objection leading.
Overruled.
What? We
Again,
should
you
have
can't
sustained
claim
that one.
damages for something that hasn't even happened, whether he was in it or not in it, or was going to be in it, or might have been in it, whether it was 2018 or now. There just is no Pirate 6. Not only
That's not
do we
true.
not have a
They're
contract
talking about giving the role to Margot Robbie.
2018 or after that, no contract had been signed for a
They're
Pirate 6.
gonna swap
It
out
doesn't
Jack
exist
Sparrow
as we
with
know.
whatever
Objection,
character they're
legal
giving Margot
conclusion.
Robbie. That's who they're looking at right now to take
Sustained.
Johnny Depp's place
The last part.
in Pirates.
How do you know he doesn't have a legal contract?
Well, Ms. Jacobs said he didn't have a legal contract, and also his agents at CAA said he had not yet negotiated a contract for Pirate 6. And Again, there is no script, so they haven't greenlit it, as we say. They don't have it cast or with the director yet.
Okay. Based on your analysis, what, if any, impact did Ms. Heard's op-ed have on whether Mr. Depp could claim a loss for Pirate 6?
Zero.
And why do you say that?
Again, well, many things. The movie doesn't exist yet, so that's one. But even as important is that Disney, in their file for this trial, did not have the op-ed piece as part of all of the information they had read and looked about and discussed. The conversations of Mr. Depp not being in.
Does she notice the camera's on her? Did she notice?
The franchise that goes
Yep. Yep, there.
long before
Hi.
the op-ed piece even came out. And there are other factors that Disney was considering: the lateness on set, the cost overruns that cost, which can go from hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars.
By the way, did anybody see the representative that Disney
4 hours, 8 hours,
sent
or even
for this
several
trial?
weeks to a month?
She couldn't answer
when the
anything. She
Finger
didn't know
incident
anything.
happened.
Like Disney just
So,
sent like
on top of that,
somebody that
Mr. Depp
could
is an expensive
represent them without
actor.
having
He
any
can
information.
Earn between $20 and $25 million.
She was like, I don't
per
know.
movie plus
I'm not
back end.
privy to that.
So it's
That's
very
not my
expensive. So
section.
when you put
I'm
that
like-
all together, the rising cost of Mr. Depp's talent, the challenges that they had to keep it on budget because of his lateness and his tardiness, and all the other allegations that would affect a brand such as Disney, right? Someone talks about a burnt corpse does not necessarily coincide with the
Where's this
brand of
burnt corpse?
Disney.
Does anybody have
So
reference
there
to
were
this
many
burnt
problems.
corpse?
And interestingly enough, there was a lot of conversation internally in the industry, or
Objection, hearsay.
She's entitled to rely on hearsay, Your Honor.
Sustain, can't say this hearsay.
All right. Please continue without saying what the discussion in the industry was.
Oh,
The
he
Jack
mentions it
Sparrow
in
character had
text, apparently. In a text.
been exhausted in terms of where it could go creatively. And I think the studio is looking for a way for it to renew the franchise, but not necessarily base it entirely on the Jack Sparrow character, which is where it ended up the last couple of years.
Okay.
Well, it's because, let's be honest, the only reason to watch Pirates of the Caribbean is Jack Sparrow.
Compared to the earlier ones.
He is one of the main characters. Why wouldn't you base it around his
Was
character?
there any article that came out on November 5, 2020, 3 days after the damages are cut off, relating to Pirates of the Caribbean and Mr. Depp's chances of being Jack Sparrow?
I think they reiterated the fact that he was probably not going to be in the movie.
Nobody would have watched it.
No.
Nobody would have watched
What impact has
a Pirates of the
op-ed
Caribbean
had
without
on
Jack Sparrow in
Mr.
it.
Depp's career.
They'll find that out if they ever do make another one.
No.
Very little.
If they don't make
Anybody
another
who
one,
knew
it's
the
because
op-ed
they don't want to
existed
use
before
Johnny
the
Depp,
lawsuit.
and they know that it'll be
If
detrimental to
anybody
the
that I
box
know, but
office.
certainly not Disney.
Okay. And
Certainly not
What
Disney.
impact
Yes,
has
because
the
she can
op-ed
speak on behalf of
on
Disney.
Mr. Depp's Q scores?
According to what I read of Mr. Alan Jacobs,
Yeah,
an
exactly.
expert
Nice.
in
Because the plot is
statistical
so
analysis,
compelling.
and from my own research on websites that are available to us, Mr. Depp's Q score, or if you're familiar with IMDb, which is Internet Movie Database, which is available to public and to the professional side.
I know,
his
I'm
Q
on
score
there.
did not change.
Go ahead and look up Tobias Dustin.
It was kind of in the middle of exactly the high and low of his Q scores overall. It was in the middle. It was at 113, which is where it was a couple weeks before and a couple weeks after. So the op-ed didn't have any effect on his Q score. And
Yeah, but those, I promise you, those don't change daily. I check mine all the time. They change
And
about
then you
every 2 to
testified
3
in
months.
response to an earlier question I had that people, or that nobody seemed to notice the op-ed until Mr.
If you
Depp
guys want me to do
filed
this
suit.
all week, I will
That was on
absolutely
March
do it all
1,
week. I don't care if there's just
2019,
one or
do
two of
recall?
you in here watching, but
Yes, that's when
absolutely I
the
can do this
lawsuit
all
was
week.
filed.
I got
And
nothing else to
Why do
do.
you say that they didn't notice until then?
Because the op-ed piece for most people in the industry kind of came and went without much fanfare or much conversation. It was much more about I don't think very many people even know it was written until the allegations were made by Mr. Depp in the lawsuit. It kind of,
Most people didn't know the op-ed
Came out
had been
of the
written.
radar
Dude, that
very
thing went
quickly if
viral on
anybody
Twitch
saw
like
it
the
all.
day after it was written. Don't even try that.
Between December 18, 2018 and November 2020, November 2, 2020, our window here, has Mr. Depp continued to star in films
This lady looks like the
So,
optical
Mr.
illusion
Depp,
of
so
the
the
witch and the
article
pretty
came-
lady
the
if you
piece came out
flip flop them,
December 18 and 20 of 2018.
Doesn't she?
In
Like if you
December,
flipped her upside
in
down, she'd look like a pretty
January
girl.
and February of 2019, he shot a film called Minamata.
Like her,
which
every
was
time
an
she turns to the
independent
side, you
film
see
that
it.
It was what
Yeah.
Whole head, that's like,
he loved the
and then the
script
pretty
and
girl
wanted
with the
to do
like
it. So he was
feather on
able
top
to
of her. You
film
guys
that
know what I'm
after the
talking about?
op-ed
Yeah,
piece.
the
And then the
optical
Dior campaign, Sauvage, I don't know the exact dates of filming, but I know that it did air throughout 2019. And it's my understanding that he still may have that contract with Dior, so he continued that product endorsement. And then in in the spring and the fall, I believe it was, Mr. Depp was able to do press for the film Waiting for the Barbarians. He went to the Deauville Film Festival, he went to the Venice Film Festival, he was well received at the press conferences. You know, life was at the same level for him in terms of his popularity over in Europe. They were still, he was still working on press for the films. And then, of course, he was scheduled to film Fantastic Beasts in early November of 2020.
And that's no longer.
Just wanted to
the
put that out there.
Objection, Your Honor.
That's what she looks like.
What's the objection?
Can we approach?
Tell me you don't see it now. Oh, there it is.
It's in my head now.
There you go. Make your comparisons.
And that's no longer the
I'm
case.
never gonna
correct?
unsee this.
I don't want you to say anything more than that. That's no longer.
It's no longer the case, correct?
He's no longer in that film, correct?
He was paid for it, but he does not star in the film.
Okay, thank you. Now, what effect did the op-ed have on Mr. Depp's following?
I had to.
I don't know if
couldn't.
I don't think it had any effect on his fan following. Again, his Q scores didn't shift, and he clearly has a strong fan base.
In
Of
your
course he has a-
opinion,
he calls them his
who
relatives.
Has caused the damage, if there is any, to Mr. Depp on his career and reputation between December 18, 2018 and November 2, 2020?
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
Mr. Depp,
Good try, though.
Why
Good
would you
try.
say that?
Yeah, that
well,
was a
again,
good try.
filing the lawsuits, bringing to
No,
light
Amber, and that's
the
I've already said that.
issues. Is
Margot
Mr. Depp
Robbie is
doing that, on his own
speculated to have been
accord?
approached about being Johnny
and
Depp's replacement for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Any statements that were made
Nobody's going to watch
How do
that.
you make
by his
How do
team, Mr. Waldman, or
do you do
anyone else, is associated
It's
with
where they're
Mr.
gonna
Depp,
kill off
and those
Jack Sparrow, and
statements
she'll be
that
the
came
new
out, the defamatory
pirate.
statements,
Captain? Yeah,
which we'll
pirate
in a minute,
captain.
were also
Objection.
put out by Mr. Depp's team. So in actuality, he's causing his own demise by bringing these lawsuits forward and continuing to kind of ignite the fire of
Storms are coming.
negative publicity around both of them.
Okay. Are all of your opinions to within a reasonable degree of probability or certainty with respect to Mr. Depp's damages?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to move you to Amber Heard's damages. With respect to Amber Heard's claims for damages, on what subject have you been asked to offer your opinion?
What damages has happened to
So
Amber
I have
Heard
to look
after her
at
claims? She became
reputational harm
the
and
she became the
economic loss
spokeswoman of the
that
ACLU.
Heard incurred
Right?
due
Like,
to defamatory
I mean-
statements that Mr. Waldman, on behalf of Mr. Depp, made
she
in
pledged.
April of 2020
pledged.
and again in June of
Pledged.
2020.
Which I find
And what materials did you review
synonymously
informing your opinions?
to be the same. Yeah, you're the only one.
Again, many of the same materials that I reviewed for Mr. Depp's case, which was the deposition testimony, the
now the
pleadings,
pigs
the
are freaking
discovery,
out
all of
because there's a
that was
thunderstorm coming.
included, as well as
Tank Girl's already under the desk. Now there's going to be a pig
expert
fight with
testimony
the
that was
dog.
based on statistical analysis of
Sorry, I
negative
find
social
my
media
the own
campaigns
actions
that
between my
were
animals at my house more
created,
compelling
as well
than this
as
woman's testimony
what
right now.
happened. I talked to Ms. Heard's agents. I read their depositions. I talked to her publicist. I read her deposition. I talked to Ms. Heard
I don't say
herself,
this
first person
be
accounting of what happened from her
all
perspective after
out.
those defamatory statements were made. And then I looked at.
Dahmer, your internet is
again,
just absolute garbage right now.
emails back and forth and texts back and
Did it.
forth with
Trying to fix it.
studio, Warner Brothers, and other producers that the management team is working with to get Ms. Heard more work.
Okay. Now, before I go
The reason
into
that
the
Amber Heard can't get
questions
more
that I'm gonna
work is
ask,
because
I'm
she's
gonna
a
go ahead and just kind of
horrible
define
fucking
this so
actress.
that we're all on the same page going through it. The
It
jury
has
has seen
nothing
the
to
three
do with
defamatory
anything that
statements. They're defendants
any lawsuit or anything. It's
1245,
she's just a
1246A,
piss
and
poor actress.
1247. And I'm just going to refer to
Oh God,
them
you know it's
as
bad
the
if you bring back the cranky
/
shrink.
Waldman statements in asking you all these questions. Will you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, good. Please describe Amber Heard's career prior to the publication of the Depp Waldman statements.
So
Oh,
Amber's
they're
had,
trying to bring back Waldman.
a long career for someone who is not.
They're trying to bring back
is
Waldman.
fairly young still. She was in over 50 productions, I believe including Aquaman and Justice League, but let's just say close to 50
Guy sacrificed his Twitter account to
certainly 50
say
productions before the defamatory
his
statements
feelings.
were made. She had, a consistent working actor's career. Her agents were strategic as she started getting more work, that they wanted her to work with better and better directors, to have, the Danish Girl is a film that had a strong director and a strong critical acclaim. And then she went from that to getting Justice League, which is on the bigger budget.
That you feel like you're listening to like a school board meeting right now?
And Aquaman 2.
Yeah.
So her career was following a very nice,
It's all right. It's okay.
rise.
Johnny's going to be
And she was on the
brought
precipice
back
of a meteoric
today,
rise
I believe.
with Aquaman and
Which that's going to be
Aquaman
amazing
2
because you know how long and drawn out Johnny's statements
Was
are.
Aquaman a
He's going
successful
to waste a
film
lot
in
of
terms
their
of
time.
box office sales?
Oh God, yeah.
Aquaman was an extremely successful film. It made over $1 billion, and I believe it is the
But not because of Amber
highest-grossing
Heard,
DC
because of Jason
comic
Momoa.
film ever.
No.
Did she just say that it
What,
was
if
the
any,
highest grossing film ever?
accolades did Amber
Comic
Heard
book.
in Aquaman? And I'm going to call it, sometimes I'll call it Aquaman.
Film
one.
ever.
Didn't Deadpool 2
Right. So in
outdo that?
Aquaman 1, there were many
Any of the
nods
MCUs?
from the director and the producer.
Let's hear it.
and the-
Objection, hearsay.
She's just characterizing her. She's not quoting them.
Well, I don't know where it's going. I'll overrule at the moment.
Thank you.
She got emails from the director and the producer stating that they loved the performance.
Objection, hearsay.
You can't say what the emails say.
Avengers Endgame is the
Summarize
highest,
them,
then Infinity War, then No
characterize
Way
them. Can you
Home,
do that?
Accolading emails
then the
of accolade
Avengers,
from her,
Avengers Age of
from
Ultron,
the
Black
director
Panther,
and the
Iron Man
producer.
3.
Objection, hearsay.
Aquaman is
Thank you.
number 9.
Okay. What type of press opportunities did Amber have prior to the Depp
Number 9.
Waldman statements?
It didn't even beat out a
So
movie
the-
that
the
came out
press
2
really
years before it.
Loved working with Amber. She was on the
Maybe
cover
it's-
of
maybe they
many
just mean it's the
magazines
highest rated
after the
DC
Danish Girl,
movie.
after Justice League, after Aquaman. She was the cover girl, I think it was, of Marie Claire or Elle in the UK. She had a cover story of a big magazine in Mexico and Australia. They were,
I don't know. Amber Heard has been dressing like a pilgrim this entire
Another
trial.
one called her role model of the year. So she got a lot of press. She did a lot of press, both in magazines, but also on the press tours and the press junkets that she did for the films.
And were some of those California style, Marie Claire, Elle, Shape?
Yes, there was a lot of
Objection,
them.
leading.
Overrule.
There was a lot of them, so I'm not, don't remember all of them, but it was, GQ, Elle, Marie Claire, both here, the UK, Eastern Europe, in Latin America, and in Australia.
And what about after the release of Aquaman, which was December 2018? How was her press then?
Well, the press tour was doing well, and they wanted to give her a lot more press. And I think up until the defamatory statements came out, she was on deck to do a lot of press. And then
Yeah, best movie. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. I have to bring this out, Nick, for what Nick
So the
said.
press,
Bomber.
the request for press went silent. After
Best
the
movie with the
defamatory
Q in the
statements
titles
were made,
and starring
which
Jason
then
Momoa.
The negative social media campaign.
Of all time.
She's the second person that has falsely
No.
said
What
Aquaman
factors relating to
is the
social media
greatest,
does the
uh,
entertainment
the
industry
highest
rely on when
rated
considering
and
an actor
grossing
for a
comic
role?
book movie of all time.
Yes.
Social media becomes a big part of how
She can't even
studios
say-
decide to use an actor
you can't
and
even say
actress
that
in a film
accurately
because they
by
want to know
saying
how the general
at that
public
time.
feels about them. They want to know what the consumer feels about
Because that came
actor.
out in
So when there's
2018. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 movies. Oh no, did I just lose my We got to try this again.
to continue working with an actor or an actress if there's a lot of negative social media around them.
6
And
movies
after the Depp
had
Waldman
come out at
statements,
the
what
same
happened
time,
on social
or I'm
media?
sorry, had come out before it.
After the Depp Waldman
And
statement,
it is
social
9th
media
place.
blew up with negative.
So there are 6 other
tweets
movies that
and
came out
Instagram
before
posts
Aquaman
and,
that
you
are all
know,
comic book
Facebook
movies
posts and
that
Snapchat
did
and
better
trolling,
than
as we
Aquaman.
call it. It was just negative. According
I mean,
to
I enjoyed
now,
the
there
movie.
was over 1.2
Yeah, Aquaman
million
was a great movie, but not because of
about
her,
Amber
because of Momoa.
using
Yeah.
hashtags that used the words in the statement of the Depp Wald statements.
As a matter of fact, I would have put, what's his name? The guy that played
that 1.2 million negative statements between
Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe had a
April
better
of
performance in the movie than she
2020
did.
and November or January of 21.
Yes.
It's a lot of negative publicity, and there was just a lot of what we call noise around Ms. Heard and her work.
Okay, hold on. I got to go
Can
outside
you
and grab
please
a
describe
chicken.
to the jury what
storming
negative,
out,
what
so
a
I'm going to come
negative
back
social
looking for
campaign is?
fucking chicken.
So a negative social campaign would be when a fan base, or in this case, according to both the forensic statistical analyst as well as Ms. Heard's agents and the product that she was working with, L'Oreal, and her publicist, it was a campaign that included both live accounts.
Look at this.
Live Twitter, you know, people that actually
Look at my
have
poor girl.
individuals, as well as what we call
Objection.
Bomber.
May I be heard?
Look at my poor girl.
Looks. Oh God.
Hi, baby.
Just like
I feel like Bomber's getting the storm that's coming through my area right now with his hip, up. You're doing great, though. You're doing great. Okay, so does anybody find any validity in what this lady has been saying so far? Like,
All right. Other than the bots, please describe the rest of the social media, the negative social media campaign. What's it
The
about?
fan base was very energized by Mr. Is it the Depp Wald state?
Yeah, let me just
The
ask.
Depp Waldman. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly how we rehearsed this. What was that I was supposed to say?
How has the negative social media campaign been used against Amber Heard since the Depp Waldman statements?
gonna try rebooting my
The
router.
negative campaign has been used both to
That's fine. You've got the link.
let's fire Amber off of Aquaman, to the product that she had an endorsement contract with was L'Oreal, the makeup. And every time that L'Oreal mentioned Amber Heard and the
I
product
keep showing you
together,
next because I
they
think
would
you're the
get
only one over on
harassed.
my Twitch, and I want to make sure that
Publicist
everybody over on the
company was
YouTube side can see
harassed.
what you're saying.
Any kind of movie that she was related to or television project that she was related
Yeah, I
to.
appreciate
got
my
negative attention from the
my
social
Twitch
media
supporters.
world.
I know
Even
I'm not on there very often.
The charities that she was involved with were getting hammered, if you will, or bombarded by negative social media, which made it difficult to work with Amber on any level because negativity was
Oh, I'm
brought
getting
to their
slammed by
product,
the storms,
service,
Kate.
or film.
And is that negative social media campaign ongoing to
I'm
this
pretty
day?
certain I told Bomber to remove
Yes.
himself from the stream.
And you were talking a little bit before, I think, about remove Amber Heard from Aquaman 2. What were your observations with respect to that in connection to the Depp Waldman statements?
Again, the statements, I'm sorry, the social media campaign, whether called, remove Amber from Aquaman or, negativity for her relationship in that film, it always tended to use words that were inside the defamatory statements. They became hashtags, right? So, if it was said in the defamatory statement, they were often reiterated in the tweets and the posts.
How difficult is it for an actor to repair this type of negative social media?
Yeah, how hard has it been for Johnny to repair himself on this
Well,
negative
first of
social
all, it has to
media?
Stop. Okay, so once it stops, then an actor and their team can work slowly and patiently in both, maybe it's press interviews, maybe it's relationship with charity.
Probably next.
Maybe it's a small role in a movie and they do well and they kind of rebuild their career, but it can take 2, 3, 4, 5 years or more to rehabilitate your career. But first and foremost, it needs to stop. It just needs to stop so that they can, the consumer can get beyond it, and then they can reactivate their career by doing their work again.
Describe Amber Heard's reputation after the Depp Waldman statement.
How come we're not asking, can you describe Johnny Depp?
Well, the reputation, I guess, depends.
Can we talk about Johnny Depp before and after?
Who you're talking to, but in the public, it's
Amber Heard's
negative
stuff?
In the industry, they like her work, but it's very,
I feel like
work with her
I
right
feel like
now,
this lady
because
is
every time her name
being
is mentioned,
extremely biased.
the negativity flares up again. So it doesn't make sense for them to try to make a movie which costs millions of dollars and then have a lot of negativity towards the film or the TV show or the product. So her world has been silent in terms of opportunities, and even things that she wanted to work on are no longer available to her.
Has Amber been able to obtain roles after the Depp Waldman statements?
For a long time, no. Very recently, she was able to do a small independent film from some people out of who get their financing out of Europe. But up until that, no, she has not worked.
Neither is Johnny.
No.
Except for he's got one film getting ready to hit Sundance at the end of this month.
Aquaman, what should her opportunity, what would you have expected following the release of Aquaman, December 2018, up to what's going on now?
I like to call Aquaman really, Amber Heard's Star is Born moment. It was that moment where not only was she a good actor, but she was world renowned because she was in the most successful film almost of all time, if not all time.
She had all sorts of problems with Jason Momoa.
She was on the poster.
There was conflict of interest the entire filming. Momoa's already said all of that.
She was strong and beautiful, and it was just this extraordinary moment for her.
Warner Brothers has already stated that they were in discussions about not having her return to her role to begin with because of her conflicts with Jason
Everybody just wanted to hit the
Momoa.
ground running, and let's do more. Let's do more work.
What, if anything, happened to Amber's participation?
I don't believe she did.
So for a moment in time in February 2021, there were conversations that Amber's, I'm going to be technical with you, her option for employment was not going to be exercised. So they may not have hired her again, even though she had a contract for it. There was some question as to whether she was going to be hired again on Aquaman 2.
All right. And did ultimately then she still get hired for Aquaman 2?
She did. Her management team fought very hard, and they ultimately ended up hiring her, but also not only because of what her management team did, but Jason Momoa, the star, and James Wan, the director, committed to her in an email saying, if we are involved in this movie, you...
Objection, no foundation, hearsay.
Don't say what the email said, just summarize it or describe it.
You can't summarize it either. It's still
I
hearsay.
understand this world. So her management team worked hard, and Jason Momoa and the director were adamant that she was in the film.
Objection, hearsay.
I think that's, she has to be able to say that.
She doesn't have to be able to say. It's hearsay.
Right. So
There's no proof of what she's saying.
what, if any, assurances did Mr. Momoa and Mr. Wan give Amber that she would be in Aquaman 2?
Objection, hearsay.
Yeah, it's all hearsay. Elaine, just move the fuck on. You're not going to be able to get this question out.
What, if any, are you aware of any chemistry
trying, Your Honor.
issues
I'm
between Amber and Jason Momoa from Aquaman?
According to the fact that they did a chemistry test with Ms. Heard and Jason Momoa in order for her to be hired, that is a good indication that they thought the two of them had good chemistry.
No, it means that they wanted to see if they had good chemistry, and Momoa felt that they didn't.
So I think it's general awareness that they had great chemistry.
He has gone on
What, if anything,
saying that.
would also suggest, with respect to Aquaman 2, that Jason Momoa believed they had good chemistry?
He wanted her in the movie.
Okay.
Hearsay.
I think she has to be able to rely on it.
Sustained.
Yeah, it's here. God, good God. Oh man, this makes my fucking hair growing slower.
Of all of the record evidence, what, if anything, did you see in writing anywhere that there was ever any chemistry or creative issue with Amber Heard and Jason Momoa from Aquaman 1?
There were no communications whatsoever that there was no chemistry between the two.
And what, if anything, did you, in all the record
Welcome
evidence,
back.
did you see that the producer or Jason Momoa did not want Amber Heard in Aquaman 2?
I did not see any evidence.
Everybody
of that.
congratulate Bomber
In
on
fact, the
being
opposite.
here in stop motion
Correct,
capability.
I overruled. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, what, if any,
You look great
leverage
as
did
Gumby.
Amber Heard have to renegotiate her salary under the circumstances of the discussions you were talking about with not exercising her option?
She had zero leverage. She was fighting for her life to stay in the film.
Now, is it typical for an actor to be able to negotiate an increase in their salary after a successful franchise?
Absolutely.
So you may know this already, and so I apologize if you've heard it before. I don't know what's been brought to your attention, but in a franchise such as, a potential franchise as Justice League and Aquaman, the customs and practice is that the studio will make an agreement with the actor that incorporates potential future films. So if Justice League does well, they want to know what they're going to pay the actor for the next one and the next one and the next one. And in those successive terms in the contract, the fee for that actor customarily goes up. It can go up by 10%, 20%, 100%, it could double, what have you. And in the case, as Ms. Kovacevic stated in her testimony, that in a successful franchise, a movie that's made $1 billion, the actors, agents will go back and try to renegotiate that upcoming price tag. So if it was going to be X, they might want it to be 2X or 3X. And that's very standard in the industry, to renegotiate your contracts when there's many films in one single contract that each have their own price points.
Okay.
What, if any, other actors in Aquaman 1 were able to renegotiate their contracts?
Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa renegotiated his contract very significantly from Aquaman.
Well, of course, because he's the reason why people went to go watch. Stop making it seem like people went to go watch it because of her.
Let's somewhere between 3 and 4 million to 15 million.
Did Amber have a contract for Aquaman 1?
Yes.
How much was she paid for Aquaman 1?
Aquaman 1, she was paid $2 million.
And did that same contract provide for it if she was in Aquaman 2?
I'm sorry, I apologize. Aquaman 1, I believe she got $1 million. Aquaman 2, she was supposed to get $2 million. I apologize, the numbers.
Which makes sense. She had a larger role there.
Aquaman 2 is going to be 2.
And then they saw her acting, and they were like, "We meant
based
1
on
million."
your
So
experience and knowledge,
can we
in
go
the
down to
industry,
500,000?
How much would Amber Heard have been able to negotiate her contract, but for the Depp Waldman statements? For Aquaman 2, I'm asking.
Right. Well, as you can see from Mr.
Here's the
Momoa's
thing.
contract, that went up exponentially, up to $15 million.
Exponentially. That's now a word in the dictionary.
$15 million for the movie, but she certainly could have increased it by $1 or
This
$2
woman
million
used exponentially.
or even doubled it. So if it was 2, it could have been 4 or even 5 or 6, depending on the enthusiasm if it had just rolled from Aquaman 1 to Aquaman 2 without any of
But here's the thing: you're only going to be able
that was
to
created
listen.
by the Waldman
You're only going to be able
Waldman
to
statements.
negotiate your
What,
contract
if anything,
based
happened to
on
Amber's role
your performance.
in Aquaman 2 after the Depp
right?
Waldman statements?
Like, if she had an extremely strong
was
performance like
diminished.
Momoa, and as much of a draw that Momoa does, then yes, she'd be able to negotiate. But
why
did
would
she
Amber
have
have
that
been
strong of
featured,
performance? Does she have that large of
more
a fan
prominently in
base draw
Aquaman 2?
to come see the movie? Did anybody look at her
Objection,
like
no
a Gal
foundation.
Gadot, who's a very strong actress and has a very strong presence
what
on
usually
screen
determines
and really shows themselves
are
off
you able
as
to speak
a
to
strong
whether
female role
Amber
model?
should have
No.
been or would have been more prominently featured in Aquaman 2?
Well, a couple of things.
I'm trying to get the foundation. Are you able to speak to that?
Do you see?
Yes.
Okay. And
Can we
please
budget
tell
her
the
under set
basis of
design?
that and then your opinion.
So there's two things. When two actors do well in a romantic relationship, and
It's all right, Bomber, I can't hear you
they
anyway.
Get married or they're going to have a baby, you want to
You've
follow
got no
that through,
sound.
because part of what did well in Aquaman was not only the action sequences, but to have a strong female character having a relationship with a strong male character is very empowering.
It's like me, guys. I tried to negotiate with John Johnson to get paid it all, and I went from one McChicken
one of the main posters
per
was
on-set
of the two of them
appearance to
together,
two
standing proud and
McChickens
strong.
because of my
Being that
performance
couple.
in Spade
And so
versus Psychotic.
naturally, as you go and develop scripts in the industry, you want to follow on the things that are working. And according to Ms. Heard, when she read the first script for Aquaman 2, she had a strong romantic
Which is
arc
now
in the entire
available on
film.
Amazon Prime, by
And
the
then
way.
she also got to do some great action sequences at the end of that story in that script. So she was
Yep.
pretty
I
throughout
gotcha.
the script of
Now we got it.
Aquaman.
Yep.
Right, and then what happened?
Just having so many
Well, she was
problems.
learning things, so she wasn't
It's
getting
like
the
being here with
scripts
John
when
Johnson.
her
It's fine.
colleagues were getting the script. She paid that through her agents. And then when she got the script, it was pared down from the first script dramatically. They had her in the hospital very shortly in the first part of the movie called Act One. They had her in the hospital, and they pretty much had her in the hospital, and then she was going to do this action sequence in the end. She trained 5 hours a day for several months with a trainer to do this big action sequence. And then when
I
she
got two,
got
Kate.
set, two things happened.
He gave me a raise for Psy,
The
yeah.
costume designer said, I don't know what happened to your role. It got diminished. And-
Objection, hearsay.
Yep.
All right, go ahead with the second.
Okay.
That's
And
it.
Nice
more
catch.
importantly,
Nice
though,
catch. I was
this
about
big
ready to yell that
action
out.
sequence that she was do at the end of the movie, in the third act, was cut out, and they took it away from her. So it was radically reduced from what it was in the script and what she even trained for while she was preparing.
But
for the
can
movie.
you prove that it's
What if
because
any
of
changes
the
are made to the
they keep
storyline?
saying that it's because of the statements of Waldman and Depp.
I
Can
haven't
you
seen the movie
prove,
yet
have
specifically,
they
so I
said
can't really
that
speak to that
because
yet.
of the
All right, and
statements
when you
in
say she
Waldman
was
and
in the
Depp,
hospital,
that's why
what do
she's
you mean
been
by, was she
reduced?
injured in the first scene?
No,
I believe
they
that
actually
in the-
came
in
out
the
with a
first
statement
act of
saying
the
that the
movie,
reason
she
why they
was
did
injured
it is
somehow
because
or has injured the
Momoa's
baby. I don't know
chemistry with
exactly.
her
I'm just going
was
with what
so
Mr. told me about
piss
was that she ends up in the hospital
and that
early
he
in
had so many
the
conflicts
Aquaman
with
2
her that
movie. It doesn't
he
really come
said
out
that he
till
would
the end,
leave
kind
the
of
film
wrap things
franchise
up, but
if
all
she
of the
wasn't cut out.
interactions with Momoa's character and certainly the action scenes were taken out.
How has Amber typically been involved in promotions for her films?
As we talked about earlier, actively involved in the press and the promotion, whether that was on the press junkets, what we call when
Well,
we
of course,
tour the
because
world,
she's
and
always
then
wanting
the
attention.
actors tour
She's always in the
together
press's
and
eye.
answer questions from the press.
That's why
at
she made the
various
op-ed to
screenings
begin
and
with.
film festivals. And then
That's why
also
she went with the
was
ACLU
on the cover of
and the
magazines
what was
usually
the other
after
one
her
that she
movie,
said that
especially
she
after
pledged money
Justice
to?
League.
Because they were
And how was the promotion of Aquaman
infamously
2
more
affected by the Depp Waldman
out in
statements?
the public eye. They're very
Amber has not
well-known
been involved in
organizations.
any of the
It was
promotion that's been done
it was
to
nothing
date,
more
or
than
very
a-
little, particularly
than
in
her
the-
way
in
of
the
getting her
teasers
eye
that
into
I've
the press.
seen, we call, short
Exactly.
little things about the making of and so forth. She's not featured in them. And also very specifically, there was a big event that Warner Brothers put on during the fandom. I think it's a DC fandom event, which is a big kind of like Comic-Con style event. And they invited all of the actors, or the majority of the actors that have strong roles in film, to participate, both in the posters and the artwork, and also participate at DC fandom. And Ms. Heard was not invited to either.
Because
be in
she
the
doesn't have a strong role.
And in fact, they told her she cannot come.
Now, can this hurt Amber's career, not being allowed to be in any of the promotional materials?
Let's put this out there too.
Absolutely.
They are
And
also
it's
looking at the
that
op-ed that she
nobody
put
knows
out
about her.
as
She doesn't
negative
have the
press
same
as
part
well.
in the film. It's not going to take her on to her next movie.
So it's not
She's
just
not being
Waldman's
associated
statements.
with the
It's going to
tremendous
be
amount
her
of
own.
promotion that's going to be made for
Like this woman said, Johnny
you
Depp
know,
was his own
movie
undoing.
that everybody's looking
Amber
forward to
Heard has
see.
been her
So
own,
she's
her
not a
own
part of it
undoing
because
on all this as well.
of this negative campaign.
How have the Depp Waldman statements affected any other films or TV
And proof
promotions for Amber?
I want proof how
So,
these statements
Prior to the
100% are the
either
are the
around
cause
after or
of
around the
this
time
effect.
that Aquaman 1
Yeah.
came out, she was
There's
in a
absolutely
show called The Stand.
no way that you can prove it
based on a Stephen King novel. So
unless somebody came out and said,
you
"We
know,
stopped
it's gonna be a
her.
TV show.
We,
And
we
again, Ms. Heard didn't do any press or promotion for that.
did all of this to her because of
And
this
what
happening."
other plans were there?
No one is going to make that statement.
On the cover of.
That will be
LA
done, Grim.
Style, relating to Stand before the Depp Waldman.
I'm going to move it to 2 McChickens to 2 Mexican
Right, so Ms.
pizzas.
Heard was in, and they had done an article about her participation in this TV show, The Stand, the Stephen King novel related TV show, and they were going to give her the cover picture and cover story, and they took that away. I don't know even if the article existed, but they certainly took away the cover
picture in the cover story. How have the Depp Waldman statements affected press requests for Amber?
I want proof. I want statistical. Show me how she can prove that her statements
Yes, they affected it because they used
are
to be on
true
press
in
requests,
any
and now
way.
there aren't any. Has Amber Heard obtained any roles since the Depp Waldman statement?
There is way they can.
For many years, no, for a good period of time, or a year and a half, 2 years, until she got this small movie called Into the Fire. Has Amber obtained any studio movie roles since the Depp Waldman statements? No. How, if at all, have Amber's philanthropic opportunities been affected by Depp Waldman statements?
Again, she had some passion projects. She was invited to do some charity work, and she also had her own passion projects that she, loved and wanted to be involved with and even travel for. But they decided it wasn't going to be a good idea because every time she appears anywhere, the social media negativity can again. So she hasn't been able to
Probably not.
What is an endorsement?
So an endorsement is when an actor associates themselves with a product, either for print promotion or commercials, like Jennifer Aniston doing the water, or Matthew McConaughey doing the car commercial. That's a product endorsement. He's paid.
Okay, now
to
we're
say that the product is
we're
good,
assuming that the
and
jury
he's
doesn't know what an
associated with
endorsement is. Okay.
How important are those endorsements?
Like nobody knows
to
who
the
Michael
actors in
Jordan
the
is.
Entertainment industry.
Well, very, very important on two levels. One, they bring.
Oh my
a good
God.
amount
Well,
of
the
income
studios
to them,
pledged to
and
have
they're
her in
not
their
shooting
films,
movies,
but
so
they
it's a
just
good way to
haven't
make money
hired her
between
yet.
Film roles, and then also.
Yeah, they haven't.
The production executives and the financiers that the actor is relevant in the community because they're being associated with the product. So if it's a well-known product.
Oh God, that's good.
Really great. If it's a medium product, that's great, and so forth and so on. So you want to be, if you can, and if that's something that you like to do, not everybody does.
What number of
Whatever
lawyers
you
is she on now? What do you mean, Squishy?
They can get a lot of value out of those product endorsements because then the studios see that there's a connection with the consumer, not just on the film, but also with product.
Did Amber have any endorsement activities prior to the publication of the Depp Waldman statements?
Yes.
Yes, she had them for cosmetic
So
bruise
Amber
kits.
was hired by L'Oreal to be a product and endorse their product, the makeup line. And she had a $1.5 million contract for 2 years. And they were able to work. They had 20 days of her work. They had the right to work with her for 20 days. And she started the work. And then when the defamatory statements came out, they essentially put a pause on
Her that way. You want to talk to Toby?
They no longer brought her to photo shoots. They no longer had her do public events.
No statement.
And basically
No comment.
said, we love you, but we can't work with you right now because it's just too much.
Objection, hearsay.
Hearsay, definitely hearsay.
Sustain the objection.
Fuck yeah, you're gonna sustain that.
Have Mr. have
They
the
said,
Depp
well, we'd
Waldman
love
statement
to, but-
affected that deal in any way with L'Oreal?
Well, they put it on pause and haven't done any of the work, so she's not out there in the public eye related to the product. And they have decided to continue working with her at some point once
They have
said
pledged
this all
that they will
quiets
continue
down,
working with
this
her,
trial's over,
essentially
and
is what she
hopefully
just
the
said.
negative campaigns will stop. So they extended the contract, but they did not pay her for the extension.
They have pledged to pay her
Has
though
Amber
for that
been hired
extension.
for endorsement deals since the Depp Waldman statements?
The same thing as that she hired, right?
God, Bomber, your
Now,
internet
did you
is so
assess
horrible.
Amber's losses as a result of the Depp Waldman statements?
Yes.
What did you do to assess those?
Well, first of all, I looked at Amber's career directly, so I wanted to see, as I said earlier, she worked consistently. And
Well,
then
she
was
sure
on this
knows a
kind
lot
of
about Amber's
very
career
large
and makes a lot of
upswing with the big
assumptions
movies,
about
Justice
Johnny's.
League and Aquaman and all of that, and The Stand with the
Like,
Stephen
it's
King
interesting how
project.
she can be so matter of
and
fact
then
about
it
how
stopped,
certain things
right?
affected
So her
Amber,
work
but it
stopped.
like makes
And then I
speculation
looked at
about
other
how they
actors
could
that kind of
have
grew up
affected
at the
John.
same time frame. Grew up meaning they started their career and had the same time frame to start going from the smaller projects to the well-known director projects to the big movie projects. And I looked at those actors and I then saw after they had their stars born moment, if you will, I wanted to see where their careers went.
Well, because she
So
feels
I
like she's
looked at
there to
several
give a third-party
actors to see,
opinion. That's the
including Jason
thing.
Momoa, her co-star.
That
to
is
see what
essentially why
happened in their
she's there.
careers
That's
after
all the
such a
witnesses that have been
successful
brought
film
on by
as
Amber
Aquaman,
Heard's attorneys
came
today.
Why
They've
did
all
you
been
use
brought
that
on
method of
as
analysis?
expert
It's a very
witnesses
common
to give a third-party
methodology in the entertainment
opinion
industry
of
to
what
work with what we
of
call
what's happened.
comps. I think Ms. Kovacevic even used that word comp. So with films, you try to find comparable films. With actors, you look to see comparable actors. So you can it's not a distinct actual, this is going to happen, but this is the probability with a reasonable certainty that.
Everybody make sure you smash that like button for me. I'd appreciate it.
And her looks and the press that she was getting and should have continued to get, that her career would have been similar to these other actors.
Have you used that method in other cases in which you've been an expert on damages?
Yes, I have.
Who did you select as comparable actors for your comparison?
Well, I wanted to look at actors that were in superhero films that had done really well at the box office. So I looked at Jason Momoa, her co-star. I looked at Gal Gadot, who was...
You are not going to compare Gal Gadot to her.
Anna de Armas, who was in
Blade Runner.
Thank you, Blade Runner.
Yeah. She forgot what they rehearsed.
Spider-Man, and I looked at Chris Pine, who was in Star Trek and also Wonder Woman.
Can we also go ahead? Mention Salma Hayek and Angelina Jolie for their superhero roles. Let's compare their acting too.
So there are not that many actors to look at who do superhero characters. So
there's a lot
pool to work from, but I took a wide range from those actors, both men and women, to see what could potentially happen to Miss Heard's career.
Do you consider all of them to be identical for purposes of measurement?
Well, absolutely not. I mean, no two actors are identical. You can only look at that within a range of characteristics.
I can't believe that she is going to compare Amber Heard, a virtual unknown prior to Aquaman,
from Mr. Banya,
with people like Chris Pine and Jason Momoa and like all these and Gal Gadot, all these other people that.
What, if any, opinions have you formed?
We're already well known before their superhero
regarding the comparables you selected.
So Mr. Banya looked at calendar years to assess what happened in December of 2017 or 18 or 19, what happened in June, what happened in a very specific time frame, which works on some statistical analysis. But
I'm sorry.
Actors,
she didn't get a new lawyer, Squishy. She got a new PR team.
Related to the actor's viability. And
these are the same lawyers she's had the whole time.
Mind, if you will, how well known or how much they're coming up in conversation. And so
I love how much time she's wasting.
Time periods. Of
they only had 8 hours
to the
at the beginning of this week.
So like right after.
And they've already.
Their big film. What was their score?
We're at an hour and 45 just for this.
Look at
this
them in a year range. So it doesn't coincide from actor to actor just because you look at it over time. You have to look at it specifically after each of those individuals' box office success with a particular film. You look at the Q score, high or low during that, and then you look at how low it drops, say a couple months afterwards.
Yeah, let her just keep rambling.
Have another film or another event that brings them into the limelight again. So it's not about time, it's related to a specific activity or event, and he did not do that.
Okay. What did your comparison show in terms of films that those actors had been in since their breakout roles? I'm talking about the comparables.
Their breakout roles weren't their. I mean, Gal Gadot's breakout role was Wonder Woman, but Chris Pine. We're going to say Chris Pine's breakout role was in Wonder Woman.
Q scores were
right.
Okay, sorry. So all those actors' careers, the ones I mentioned, they all either were a steady rise or even a meteoric rise.
You're all right,
in terms of where their career went after their Star is Born moment, and they got some other good films, and maybe they got another film that performed extremely well. So it was a range, but they all were on an upward trajectory without a doubt.
And what does this mean for Amber?
With a reason, I mean, the way that the kind of industry works is usually.
Listen, she was barely in
or some really negative
Justice League. So we can let's not look at Justice League.
Upward swing in about the same time frame, give or take 6 months to a year, but it would be very reasonable to believe that her career would have been on an upward trajectory within the range.
What, if any, comparisons did you make expecting endorsement deals of these actors with Amber?
Again, all those actors that we've talked about all did multiple endorsement deals after their big movies or after their big series of movies. You know, Jason Momoa is on, you know, Rocket Mortgage and Harley Davidson, as well as, you know, 5 or 6 other companies. Zendaya is Lancome and fashion and water and jewelry and Gal Gadot.
We're going to say Zendaya's breakout role was, come on.
And de Armas, they've all done either a couple or many, and all of them have associated with a large brand. Unlike Amber, who hasn't even been able to work on the one contract that she had, she certainly didn't get any others.
Tobey Maguire did better acting in Spider-Man 3 while he was dancing underneath the influence of Venom
They were significant.
than she did in her entire role in Aquaman.
You know, colleagues.
Well, let's start with at Aquaman 2. What would she have realized there?
Well, as I stated earlier, so
This is speculation.
from Aquaman 1 to 2, it went from $1 million to $2 million, right? So that was a pre-written contract, it doubled. So the agents were very excited after the success of Aquaman to go and negotiate a much higher fee like they did for Jason Momoa. They weren't able to do that. So in that instance alone, it was more than likely a $2 million loss just from that movie alone.
2 to 4, you'd said before.
It could have been 4, could have been 6.
Objection leading.
Yeah,
Okay. What about other films?
it's speculation though. Just because
So
they
was
wanted a
as-
higher
as
doesn't mean
Amber's
she's going to
agent,
get it. You can't be like,
Mr.
well, she lost money because they weren't able to negotiate.
Kovacevic, I was doing okay.
There's a lot of things that
Kovacevic
go into
said
renegotiating
that
a
once you
contract.
get
One
that
of them is
quote
your
of the $2
performance
million
in the
from
film
Aquaman
and
2,
the way
that
that
kind
you
of
work
was
with the
like
other actors on
baseline
set.
for any other movie she would have done. So any other studio movie would have started from there, and
Okay,
depending
well, first
on
of all, Paul Rudd
the
is
success
is
of
a
Aquaman,
treasure
how much
to
press she
Hollywood.
did, maybe she worked on another great director, independent film, whatever, that $2 million for a studio film and had it jump to $4 million with the renegotiation.
She's very
that
limited
would
with
have
her
been
acting
basis. So any
capabilities.
future studio film that she would have done, any big budget film would have been the basis at $4 million, and then most likely have gone up from there if she was able to.
Most likely,
Unless she
hearsay,
should have expected
speculation.
actors.
Let's talk about TV
Speculation.
for a minute. What would those losses have included?
Well,
A movie's
on
budget
Stand,
has
which
everything to
was
do with what an
in
actor is going to get paid.
About the same time as Aquaman, but.
We're gonna try this again, Bob?
The press and the promotion got cut off because.
Yeah, let's try this.
Of statements of the negative campaign. She got paid $200,000 an episode on the Stand. So on a TV series of 9 episodes, it's $1.8 million. So if she had, again, done other TV shows, it's very likely that whether she worked with a streamer or with one of the networks, that fee would have gone up from there. Her agents would have been able to use the leverage of the success of Aquaman 2 to put her, if she had done another television show, given rise to even a higher episodic fee. Some actors go up to $1 million an episode. Jason Momoa's in his TV show got $1 million. So
Jason Momoa is also a phenomenal actor.
Potential range of where she could have gone.
What about endorsements?
Same
Very-
thing.
he's
you know,
extremely
all the other
charismatic.
actors were doing over the course of a couple years period, you know, anywhere from 5, 6, 7 other endorsement deals. And Ms. Heard realistically should have gotten endorsement deals in other categories. L'Oreal is makeup, so probably not in makeup, but maybe water or
So
clothing.
realistically, we're making assumptions that
Wellness,
just
or
because she
it
was
could have
in a
been
film
anything
that
else. So
was
she, too, should
popular,
have,
that she should have gotten
with a
more
reasonable
endorsement
degree of
deals.
certainty, gotten other
That's the assumption.
contract
Just
deals based
because
on
she was in the
success of
films,
that
she
she's
should have gotten more
associated
endorsement
with and the
deals.
TV shows she's
What
been in.
And what
bullshit.
would that have translated into in terms of dollars?
So in terms of dollars, okay, so if it was $1.5 million for L'Oreal for a 2-year contract, and let's give her 4 other $1.5 or $2 million deals, which all those other actors, you know, especially the ladies, have gotten, then you're looking at an additional $8 million of income over time. I'm not saying this is in one period. We're looking at.
I agree with you,
as far
Jessica.
back As the defamatory statements of 2020 to now, which is almost 2 years. And again, as I said earlier, even
If she's
when
lost acting roles now,
wanted it,
it's because
it
they
will
saw
take
her
3 to
acting day
5
one of her being in
years
court.
for her to rehabilitate her career if she can. So we have to look at it as a period of a minimum of 5 years. So when I say $8 million for endorsement contracts, it would have been over time.
What, if any, losses relating to production or film activity?
If you guys are new to the stream, I'd appreciate giving me a,
Well,
a
again,
thumbs up, giving me a
These
like
other
on here.
actors that we looked at, and there's a wide range of them, some of them did bigger films and some of them did gigantic films, but
it is very reasonable to assume that once you are in.
No, that wasn't actually him squishing.
Film,
that was
you'll either continue
that was
to
a
do
voice
those,
actor, and they just
some
put
of these
in
franchises, as we know, go 4, 5, 6
pre-recorded
films,
filming
or
to
she
make
would
it look
probably
like
have
he
been
was
in
doing a
another
reaction.
studio film that had nothing to do with Aquaman. But again, so over the course of 5 years, it's very reasonable to consider that she would have been in at least one film a year.
Same thing with the most recent one, saying
of $4 million.
Robert Downey
because
Jr.
that's
is reacting. He's
what her
not.
precedent would have been had she renegotiated. And it's important to note that in her Justice League contract, if there is a Aquaman 3, her price is set at $4 million. So it's very reasonable to assume and to believe that if she did a film a year for 5 years at a minimum of $4 million a year without any negotiation, which probably would have happened, but let's just say that baseline.
Well, what are the budgets of these films? You can't just make that assumption that every role she'd do $4 million. And you also got to look at, does the producer feel that her performance is worth $4 million?
It's customary in the industry, as I've talked about earlier, that the negotiations, especially with her agents at William Morris,
negotiations are set based on budget and how what they feel her performance would be worth to them.
That I already know she got negotiated for $4 million from Aquaman 3. So if we use that as a baseline minimum, but it very well would have gone up had her agents done the work that they wanted to do.
So it sounds like the problem is the agents.
Opinions and calculations
her agents sound like they're just as bad as their lawyers.
What, if any, range are the losses you are estimating for Amber Heard, but for the Depp-Waldman statements? Right. So again, it's really important that I looked at, and hopefully you understand this, that it's over time, right? So let's just say a minimum of 5 years that we're going to talk about these losses, and it could be more, but at minimum, if you look at the film,
this is all speculative,
and the endorsement contracts, it's very likely that Ms. Heard should have earned between $45 and $50 million over that time period. Are all your opinions to within a reasonable degree of probability or certainty? Yes. All right, thank you very much.
All right, let's go ahead and take our afternoon recess, ladies and gentlemen. Do not do any outside research and do not discuss this case with anybody.
May I sit down?
Yeah, you can sit down. That's fine.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So I don't know.
Please.
I don't know what that was supposed to prove. Almost everything that woman said was speculative. Like, you can't sit back and say that she's going to be guaranteed a certain amount. Like,
thank you.
She can say my fee is $4 million, and as a producer, you can be like, I don't think her acting is worth $4 million. So now you have to negotiate. Well, what can we get? Okay. You can't, that's like saying, hey, we want her in an independent film. Our budget is only $17 million. Well, Ms. Heard can only be hired for $4 million. Who is going to hire her for $4 million? Based on her previous acting. Has anybody seen her horrible acting in Zombieland? Does anybody remember it? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's the most accurate to her actual personality. Because she played an out of control zombie that was, attacking somebody. But the prior to her becoming the zombie, does anybody she couldn't get tears out on that either. Okay, let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me see if I can find this. Where is this? Let's hear.
It's an emergency.
I don't usually unlock my door to the sounds of panic, but my neighbor 406 is insanely hot.
I don't know. I don't even know if you guys can hear this.
Thank you.
You probably can't hear. I don't know. Can you guys even hear that? Probably not.
Here.
You probably can't hear it. But just watch. She's supposed to be crying, and you can hear it. So it's very similar to her first day of testimony. It's crazy. You might get a little bit of echo here because I'm going to turn it up.
So, tell me what happened.
He was homeless and sick. And I was walking home from the bar talking on my phone.
It's very similar to her first day of testimony.
He just came sprinting towards me. I mean, not running, sprinting. And I thought, like maybe he was running from someone or after someone. But last time I saw, he was still out there going crazy.
Drugs, maybe.
I didn't even tell you
Can't
the
get
worst
tears.
part.
Can't get tears.
Yeah.
He tried to bite me.
You're right. That's the worst part.
Sorry. Just so scared.
No. You should be scared. A homeless man just tried to eat you. That's like the right kind of scared. That's reasonable scared. I get scared for things that like don't make sense at all, like clowns with red noses, or like the rags they used to wipe down tables when you finish eating like a chain restaurant.
Really?
Look, the point is, I'm here for you.
You guys didn't know that this was Amber Heard. Just because nobody knew who the fuck she was until Aquaman. Well, actually, most people didn't even care who the fuck she was as Mira in Aquaman.
Thank you.
Nobody
cared about her until she claimed Johnny Depp
Set
abused
aside
her.
the feverish, homeless cannibal, I'm living the dream. I had always, my whole life, wanted to brush a girl's hair over her ear.
Good night.
There you go. That's her best job of acting she's ever done, right there, acting like she's sleeping. Now we get to see it. Now we get to see this is the true Amber Heard. She didn't have to reach for this. Because she's a complete psychopath.
Oh my God.
I don't care if people don't like my opinion.
Are you okay? Whoa. Okay. Stop. What are you doing?
This gives Johnny Depp PTSD, the scene.
Stay back, 406, okay? I don't want to hurt you, but... Shit. Oh my God, I am so fucking sorry.
Yeah, her makeup's on point. She used her bruise kit for this. This is Zombieland, yep. A lot of people didn't realize Amber Heard was in Zombieland. She was 406, his love interest at the very beginning. We're just showing her scene and her horrible acting at the beginning of it. Always unable to.
You just can't trust anyone. The first time I let a girl
tears.
into my life,
It's just proof that she's never been able to produce tears. And her acting coach even said it. Her biggest problem is... Oh yeah, absolutely. Don't forget the double tap.
Please, listen to me. 406. If you're in there...
I just thought it was hilarious that her acting coach was like, well, her biggest problem is she has a real hard time crying on screen. Only real weak. That was evidence that they wanted to try. Double tap. Should have given her one more. All right. So we'll be back in 11 minutes and 18 seconds, I guess you could say. So, yeah. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think of the doctor, which you guys, unfortunately, you didn't get to see the first half of that unless you were watching the trial before we went live. What do you guys think between the psychologist's testimony and this last girl, which I don't understand the purpose of this last girl. I really don't. Other than do what? Make speculation as to how much money she would have made had her negotiation team been able to be successful with negotiations. I just don't. as far as the doctor goes, he was discredited with his argumentative style with the lawyers on Depp's side immediately. Yeah, Dr. Street Value. Dr. Street Value. Exactly. Oh yeah, absolutely. So they've wasted between Dr. Street Value and this last witness, they've wasted almost 3 of their last remaining 8 hours. And the surgeon, they wasted about 45 minutes. So 3 hours and 45 minutes of their last 8 hours wasted on Monday by letting these people ramble on about nothing. I don't know how the jury's going to feel about anything that she just said. There was so much. I'm waiting for cross. I really hope Johnny Depp's team doesn't waste a lot of time. I know they have a lot more time than Amber Heard's lawyers do left, but I really hope that they don't waste an exorbitant amount of time on the cross-examination of this last witness. Well, the countersuit is for $100 million. Now it's up to the jury to determine whether or not. I mean, if she wins the decision, meaning if Johnny Depp loses the decision for defamation, it's up to the judge to determine the amount that she can get. Vasquez was she went against the surgeon. She did the rebuttal against the surgeon, and they were trying to get him impeached based on the fact that he's making assumptions because he actually didn't do the surgery or any of that, and that he's saying that certain things can't happen a certain way, and showing that he kind of was. He said one thing versus what he responded to with them. Unfortunately, it didn't really work. So now's the perfect time if you want to go to the bathroom, go grab something to get your popcorn ready. I would have loved to have Bomber stay in, but he said every time he starts streaming, his bandwidth just plummets. But now, as far as I know, I believe Johnny is supposed to be back on the stand today. On Wednesday, for those of you that are unaware, what was the name of his ex? Kate Moss. Kate Moss will be testifying on behalf of Johnny as a rebuttal witness on Wednesday. So for those of you that didn't know that, there's a nice little bit of information for you. To testify against the stare accusations. Oh yeah, Camille was quick. Now I'm not gonna lie, the male lawyer for Johnny, he kind of stumbled a little bit, but mainly because he was constantly trying to get the guy to stop, going off on a tangent, and he had to keep repeating himself because he's like, that's not what I asked. What I asked was this, and Dr. Street Value kept saying another thing and kept saying another thing, and he had to keep repeating his question. But I think that they were willing to do that because they do, in fact, have a ton more time left than Amber's team. And I'm not talking minutes. We're talking hours. They have hours of time still left. It's going to eventually get to the point, if Amber Heard's team continues to let their witnesses ramble off the way that they've been doing, they're not going to be able to cross-examine. They're not going to be able to rebut. And I'm hoping that Depp's attorneys are kind of planning on that, and they plan on bringing in their biggest rebuttal witnesses at a time where there's no cross-examination possible, because the judge says when your time is done, it's done. That's it. You have no more. So be careful. And they keep bringing in these witnesses that ramble and ramble and ramble and ramble. And it's gonna end up destroying Amber's team's ability to cross-examine later. And when they bring in the big guns, they're not gonna have any time to cross-examine. I mean, can anybody else see that as their current tactic? Like, that's why they're not doing as many. It seems like that's why they're not doing nearly as many objections today as they normally would. They're just like, no, we're going to, okay, just let them go. If they ramble, just let them go. Just let them ramble. They've wasted almost half of their time already on the 3 witnesses that they brought in today. Half of their time remaining has been wasted on the witnesses that they brought in today. Oh, God. Yeah. So my question, well, and she does write down her questions. It's just, I'm wondering if she just doesn't know how to, properly phrase. Kate, you didn't miss anything. I think everybody is a little bit confused over the last 2 hours as to what the purpose was of that last witness, other than to make speculation as to the amount of money that Amber should be able to make based on. And where did the 4 million come from? Because she went up from 1 to 2 million and then just said, well, she should have been able to go up another 2 times. Well, that's speculation. And that's the thing. And that's what I say. That's why I say this all the time. Johnny Depp's attorneys are playing chess, not checkers, right? Like Amber Heard's team keeps thinking that because they jumped a piece that they've won. And Depp's attorneys are not stupid. They're sitting back and letting them shoot themselves in the foot by bringing in these long-winded witnesses, and they're just letting them perjure themselves. Stories do not match up. You know, what's really funny is, like I was saying before, when you retell, when your memory becomes fresh and you're retelling a story, you're going to retell the story essentially with the same type of steps, but not with the same words. And all of Amber's, friend witnesses, which, by the way, almost everybody that she brought onto the stand were close friends of Amber's, but they're not anymore, right? Like none of them. Oddly enough, shortly before they testified, Amber got back in touch with them because, she wanted to catch up. But they're all using the same verbiage. They're all using the same vernacular. You can't tell me that's not rehearsed. There was Grey Poupon ice cream at Walmart. At no point in time did you make a coherent thought. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. All right, so we got about 2 minutes left, guys. I'm gonna hurry up and take a quick bathroom break. She's in there right now saying, Your Honor, if I could just, get one overrule, okay, it'd be helpful to me. I don't know what I'm doing here. I have no idea what I'm doing. Look, his attorneys are killing me. Can you just let me get away with something? What was that? No. Why are you asking him if I have a law degree? He wouldn't know. He's on Johnny Depp's team. No, I know. She's an absolute idiot. What do you mean I'm an idiot? Okay, fuck this. I'm out.
Your sound mixer?
All right, I'll be right back, you guys.
Sound mixer?
Yes. All right, ready for jury?
Do I stand?
It's up to you. All right, you can be seated. All right, cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Ms. Arnold.
Hello, how are you?
So you repeatedly testified about what you were asked as the Depp-Waldman statements. You don't have any knowledge whether Mr. Depp knew of the statements that Mr. Waldman made, do you?
Only with association with Mr. Waldman, correct?
You don't know when the first time Mr. Depp learned about those statements?
I don't know.
No. And the association you're talking about is that Mr. Waldman worked from time to time as Mr. Depp's attorney, correct?
Objection, Your Honor, may we approach?
Okay.
Okay. Oh, we're back to the bench again? Oh, Elaine's just shaking her head. She's like, I have no idea what I'm doing up there. Can we just get somebody else to take over the rest of this week for me? I only have this much knowledge of law, and I learned it on Reddit. Your Honor, she's not wrong. I can offer her some legal advice. Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right. And I understand that you're testifying as a damages expert and wear two hats, talking both about Mr. Depp.
If you guys get a lot of echo, just let me know, please.
Ms. Heard's purported damages. Let's talk about Ms. Heard's damages first. You understand that you have to testify as to damages that resulted from the Waldman statements, correct?
That was my analysis.
Most of your testimony, however, was just simply testimony about things that occurred after the Waldman statements.
That's what I was tasked with, yes.
Right. The mere fact that there were activities after the Waldman statements doesn't establish that the Waldman statements caused any damages.
Which is exactly what we were talking about. How can you prove it?
The time frame of when the Waldman statements.
It doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything.
Going on with Ms. Heard's career prior to the statements and what happened after the statements, it's very clear to make that correlation that they were caused by those statements and the campaign that followed afterwards in terms
Speculation.
of social
That's
media.
speculation. You're making
That's an
assumptions.
interesting thing. The witness this morning actually described the notion of what's correlation and what's causation. And correlation does not imply causation, does it, ma'am?
I'm not an expert in semantics.
Oh my God. Did she
But
just
you're
say
an
that?
expert who is purporting to say that Ms. Heard lost between $45 and $50 million. And I'm trying to understand where you put the link between the Waldman statements and all the other activity that occurred since then.
Uh-huh.
As I stated and very clearly wanted to make sure that everybody understood was that it was a time frame between which the Waldman statements were made and the negative decline in her career started happening and in discussions with her agents and her publicists, there was a very tight timeline and a very close link.
But what she said was that it was all because of. She wasn't saying.
Right, but what you're talking about is just a link in time. You do not.
It could literally be nothing more than
between what Mr. Waldman purportedly said and the damages that Ms. Heard purportedly suffered. You have no idea whether Mr. Waldman's statements caused any damage to Ms. Heard, do you?
There it is.
Well, actually, both the words in the statements were used as hashtags in the campaign, as well as when the statistical and the investigative analysis was done on the social media campaign. It turned out that 1 in 4 of the statements had or Waldminian in them. So that was another connection that I was able to make between the defamatory statements and the negativity that the studios and the product endorsements and the television and the press.
So she's making assumptions and insinuations
Let's
that
start with first principles.
these statements
If
are
they're true,
directly
they're
in
not defamatory,
correlation.
Correct.
Again, that's outside of
But
the scope of my.
there's no way to prove
expertise.
causation.
All right. Let's then go back to what you just testified to. And I think you said the Waldman statements appeared in hashtags.
I said words from the Waldman statements appeared in hashtags.
Right. And the hashtags that were analyzed, however, don't have the Waldman statements in the hashtag.
I've also seen them online myself.
Well, but the analysis that Mr. Schnell did, he looked at four, right?
That was Schnell's analysis, and I do believe I remember reading that, yes.
All right. And the 25% that you just raised, that's Mr. Schnell's analysis. You didn't do that. He did it.
Correct.
All right. So you know what Mr. Schnell did. And he didn't look at hashtags that contained the Waldman statement words. He looked at justice for Johnny Depp, right?
That's one of them, yes?
One of them, of the 1.2 million hits that you talked about, that was 900,000, 984,000.
Well, also in my conversations with Mr. Schnell, we talked about all the words that were in the statement that also appeared. So what he wrote in his report and what I had in my conversation may not have been the same thing.
Ma'am, I don't want to hear about your conversation with Mr. Schnell.
It's part of what I relied on, and I'm allowed to talk about that.
All right, so your conversation with Mr. Schnell, let's move beyond that. Let's talk about what the other hashtags were. Amber Heard is an abuser. That's not in the Waldman statement.
Is he? Please tell me he's going to say Amber Turd. Tell me he's going to say Amber Turd again. He loved saying it so much before.
But no, those words.
Please tell me he's going to spit it back out.
And we just don't like Amber. That's not in the Waldman statement.
Correct.
And Amber Turd is not in the Waldman statement.
Yes.
Correct.
Right. None of those things.
Yes.
And in terms of the use of the words fraud and hoax, that appeared in only.
He's gonna try to use that whenever he's got the opportunity.
Of tweets that Mr. Schnell analyzed, right?
I don't have his definition or his report in front of me, but we can look at it together if you'd like to.
I wonder. Oh no! We're not going to waste more time with that,
and
man.
You said Waldman appears in 25%. Waldman or Waldminian.
According to Mr. Schnell, yes.
No, all right. But if that's your only evidence, however, that any of this activity has any link to Mr. Waldman.
You got blackout, Grim?
Is that correct?
Well, no, we also look at the timeline because those campaigns were not active.
It's coincidental. It could be dismissed as coincidental.
There's some connectivity there as well.
Am I wrong? I wonder how many people have tuned in to watch this with me and like immediately tuned out because they're like, I'm on Amber Heard's side. I'm going to tell you guys right now, I am biased. I can't stand Amber Heard.
Ms. Heard to lose her ability to generate income. That's not the Waldman statement. That's a social media campaign.
I'm going to object, Your Honor. May we approach? Okay.
Oh my God. She dresses like my mom from the 1970s. She looks like she's wearing a wig. Look at the smug look on her face. Everything that his lawyer is pointing out right now is exactly what they need to do. This is a very strong set of questions and statements for cross-examination. They're doing exactly what they should, which is destroying her testimony based on correlation versus causation, right? Which is why they wanted to bring up correlation versus causation earlier in their cross-examination, which happened before lunch, in case anybody's wondering. They brought up that questioning. Is correlation 100% attributed to causation? And the doctor said absolutely not. There's no way to prove that those two can be put together. And that's what they're proving right now. that just because there's a
So
correlation in the
I'm just
timeline
looking
doesn't
for
mean it's the cause of why she's lost what she has.
evidence
Nobody's come out and
of the
said
causal
because of
connection
these statements
that you
she's no
claim
longer employed.
exists between the $45 million in damages that you
absolutely.
assert and the 3 statements made by Mr. Waldman.
Well, I also looked at Ms. Heard's career after the divorce proceedings and
That's not the question.
lawsuits that she
Don't
was
let her
involved
ramble.
with or was
She's trying to run
discussed.
away with it.
And her career might have had a pause, but she was able to overcome that when she did Aquaman and she did The Stand, both very prominent productions. And there was no dramatic downturn in her career after any publicity.
Ma'am, I don't mean to interrupt you, but do you have notes with you?
No, there's dust.
Oh, okay.
It's just dust, and I'm just distracting myself.
I'm sorry.
It's just nerves. It's really just that.
Nerves because she's full of shit.
And you looked at the way her career was moving.
Right, so as I was saying, her career was moving forward, and even she had been able to overcome the negative publicity surrounding the divorce or the initial filing of the UK lawsuit and the other lawsuits, anything that she was associated, she overcame that. She did Justice League, and she did Aquaman, and she did The Stand, and she got the L'Oreal contract all after that. The only time her career slowed down and stopped was at the same time that those defamatory statements came out. So.
But there was a lot of other activity that happened following the defamatory statements. You said every time Mr. Depp files a lawsuit, it ignites the fire around the both of them. Right?
No, I actually said it ignites the fire mostly around Mr. Depp. That was in context. Excuse me, please.
I'm sorry.
That was in context of when I was asked about Mr. Depp's career.
Was that the judge that said that, or was that her that said that?
It's not the same.
I have my volume turned down because I don't want to have a bunch of
isn't.
echo on.
Who's the protagonist in the case in the UK was Mr. Depp. Ms. Heard was a witness to that case. She was not a part of the case. So most of the negative press went.
Wow. So she snapped back at the lawyer. Nice.
Activity around
That's the way to stand your.
As a result of the
get defensive.
Isn't that true?
Jury loves a defensive witness.
There was negativity, yes, about both of them in the case, yes.
You're right. Substantial amounts of negativity. Right? And so you can't tell me that that negativity isn't the thing that keeps or Miss Heard from working.
Oh, she's in a very defensive position right now. That lean back like this.
Negative statements were a much closer time.
Her body language is speaking everything right now.
Aquaman and The Stand than the UK case, which was months later. So again, I will look at the defamatory statements as kind of
to let everybody know her body language right now. For those of you that aren't aware of body language, when somebody leans back in the chair like this, it's similar to being pushed up against the ropes.
Became a snowball effect of
she's feeling attacked. She's in a defensive stance. She's leaning away from him.
But Ms. Heard isn't claiming a causal connection between the UK case and her damages, right?
No.
All right. And you can't distinguish between the UK bad publicity and the bad publicity that derived after the Waldman statements.
What time frame are you talking about with the bad publicity from the UK case, so we can at least be specific on time frames?
Well, you talked about a 5-year time window.
A 5-year time window from 2020 to the 2 years that we're at now, plus the 3 years moving forward, is what I talked about in terms of the time frame that it would take someone who's been under this much duress to kind of rehabilitate their career. That's what we talked about.
So she's saying that everybody essentially has the same window of 5 years to have to rebuild their career.
The period that precedes this window, there's lots and lots of negative press about Ms. Heard, irrespective of the Waldman statements, correct?
Before the Waldman statements, as I said, she was able to overcome that, and she got great jobs and was getting endorsement contracts.
Right, but after the Waldman statements, there is more activity in the press, there's more social media activity, and you cannot put a causal connection between that activity and what Mr. Waldman said.
Cannot. It's impossible.
It can be the instigating event. If you want me to call it that, we'll call the Waldman statements.
You
the
can call it that,
instigating
but you
event
still
of
can't
a
prove that.
torrential rain of social media tactics that has gone on for years. Yeah.
The instigating event, and therefore your damage analysis with some degree, I guess, of reasonable certainty is that once there's an instigating event, everything that happens thereafter.
And you can tell she's getting frustrated because now she's starting to lean more forward, and she's starting to become the aggressor with her
added
answers.
to it, then the next tree burns and the whole forest burns. But if that first fire hadn't started with the one tree, there would have been no loss of acreage. So you can look at it with that same analogy.
Okay.
Trees burn one at a time, don't they, ma'am?
You know, I'm not a firefighter. I'm not going to go there with you.
Then why would you use that
Obviously,
as an
we know that a
analogy?
single
Come on now.
match can cause thousands of acres to burn. So we can leave it at that.
I think I went there with you. All right, let's do this.
Oh, he's ready.
Decided
He's ready.
that there were.
He goes, let's do this. It's never a good thing when a lawyer spits out, let's do this, and starts looking through his notes.
Comparable in order to determine what Ms. Heard was likely to make over time, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, let's compare these actors.
Of those comparable actors and actresses, is there a single one who has had any press suggesting that they defecated in the marital bed?
There it is. He talked about pooping in the bed.
I don't know. I have no idea.
You would agree with me that that is a negative influence with respect to Hollywood.
If one believed it, yes.
Yeah, if one believed it, it was reported.
Yes. Yeah, it certainly has been discussed. We don't have any proof or video of anybody defecating on the bed.
I certainly do not have proof video of anybody defecating in a bed. I'll give you that.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Except for Amber.
But what you know is that Mr. Waldman didn't say anything about defecating in a bed.
Correct.
Right. So all of the bad publicity around that activity has nothing to do with Waldman, right?
Waldman, as you said, didn't talk about defecation.
Okay. And you haven't considered how that story has adversely
I love that they're just
career.
tearing apart her speculation
That story,
and
you're
assumptions
gonna ask me for a
to
causation
show
link between
that there's no
scoop
grounds
story and
for her to
demise of her career. I
legitimately
can't.
make
No, I'm
the
not gonna do that,
connection
nor can
between
I.
these two.
You couldn't do it?
Can I make it? No, I can't.
Right. And you can't do it with Waldman's statements either, can you?
Well, again, I did, and I have, and I stand by them. So
Yeah.
You did by.
She refuses to back down.
Time frame are relatively close.
Yeah, it's not at all,
the
Nix.
time frame and the instigation and if you will, the rallying of the forces, again, it's like a lit tree. It's going to ignite everything. It's like free game afterwards. So it was the instigating event, if you will, and that's.
So pooping on the mattress,
Yes.
that wasn't another
All right,
match
so from
into the
your
fire?
perspective, anything that happened after Waldman that was negative to your
Yeah,
client
she's saying
is attributable to Waldman and therefore attributable to the damage.
and that was the argument I
I
said.
was tasked with looking at that specifically, and that's what I was asked to limit it to. I was not asked to look at anything else.
All right. Jason,
So she was specifically asked just to
That's
look
one
at
of your
one
comments, right?
particular thing
Yes.
and build all of her
He's
assumptions and
been
speculations against that one thing.
prominent since 1999. It was in Baywatch in 99. 44 episodes on Baywatch. Do you know that?
You can look it up if you did. I'll go with that.
Right. But you remember him on Baywatch.
Actually, I didn't watch Baywatch, but
You
he
lied.
certainly had the
She
physique
lies.
for it. So
Everybody watched Baywatch.
Started
Even I'll admit it. I watched Baywatch.
Atlantis, he was on that. Many episodes.
right?
Did you know that?
Yes.
Okay. He played Conan the Barbarian.
In TV or film?
Film.
Okay. I don't have Mr. Momoa's resume memorized, so.
Wait a
No,
minute.
I'm just
Momoa
trying to
played Conan?
understand how you came to the conclusion they're comparable.
He played
Because
Conan?
I'm just want to spend a few
Why did I not see that movie?
a few minutes talking about Mr. Momoa's career. Game of Thrones was one of the most popular things on TV.
Well, she, as an expert
for
witness,
a
it's her
period of
job to
3 years,
explain to the
correct?
jury
Yes, he was.
And he was in Game of
her
Thrones.
findings.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. And he's Aquaman, right?
Yes, he is.
Right. He's the title character in Aquaman.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. And he was actually Aquaman in a movie before the Aquaman movie started.
Correct.
You mean Justice League and other things like that, yeah.
Batman versus Superman.
I have not
Dawn
seen
of
that
Justice.
movie. I'm going to have to see if I
Wasn't
can
he
find
in
it.
that as Aquaman?
I didn't see that one.
Didn't see it.
No.
Miss Heard wasn't in that movie, was she?
Not that I know of, no.
No, she was not.
And he was in both Justice League movies.
Yes, he was. I love that they put misheard.
Correct.
Misheard is the word
And he's in
misheard
Aquaman
because
too.
that's
Yes.
They used him in the second Lego movie, right?
Yes.
Yep.
He's one of the most heroic characters in the recent Dune blockbuster,
Which happened post Aquaman.
right?
And your point being, it's
In
in
fact-
correlation. Therefore, it must be
He's not the
causation,
lead,
in your
though.
opinion, ma'am.
No.
In Dune, no, he's not the lead.
Did you ever read Dune?
Pardon?
Did you ever read Dune?
I know, but I've seen the movie.
No. Do you understand whether his character will come back from the dead in the third movie?
As again, I didn't read the book, so he might. I don't know.
That might-
We're just talking about that one movie.
That
So
might be a
that's
bit of a spoiler.
No, what we're talking about is causation.
Dude.
He's one of the principal
Did she just say
leads
dude?
in the new Fast and Furious franchise movie Fast.
Yeah, I've got it, Grim. I've got it pulled up.
I don't know that for sure, no.
Okay. But that's not the career path that Ms. Heard has had. She's never been the title character in a movie. She hasn't spent years on television. She did what, 8 TV shows? 8
Dude.
single episodes of TV?
Again, I don't have her resume. If you want to show it to me, we can.
You don't know her resume, but you supposedly studied all of these things that
Mr. Momoa.
And you compared her to all these other
well-liked,
actors.
even though he's
But you don't know her
engaged in a recent
resume.
divorce from another actor.
I don't, dude. They're
That's
they're
correct,
destroying this woman's testimony.
I don't know. I don't follow his fan base.
But you
don't
compared her
follow
to
Jason
him.
Momoa, but you used him as a comparable to come up with a $45
I said I
million
don't follow
deal.
his fan base. I understand him as a prominent actor in the business, but I don't follow his fan base.
Isn't fan base one of the things that you analyze?
Of course, you can look at numbers, but I don't keep a watch on his social media feeds.
All right. All right. You indicated that Gal Gadot is in Wonder Woman.
Yes, she's a star.
She's in fact Wonder Woman.
No, she's good too.
Yeah. All right. She's the title character, and there's been now multiple Wonder Woman movies, right?
Yes.
What is happening?
And even before that, she was in franchise films.
Which one are you referring to?
Fast and Furious.
Excuse me, I honestly don't.
I didn't know. I don't know her
One of the
film
main
career.
characters. I know it's
It's
The Rock
stunning.
and
You
that whole crew.
didn't even know she was in the Fast and Furious franchise.
I've seen it on her resume, but I didn't. Again, I'm not a fan of the Fast and Furious.
You'll agree with me that Wonder Woman is a more.
He's trying to
prominent
establish
role
the
in
breakdown between her comparison of Amber
If you're
Heard,
gonna
who
talk
essentially
about
was a
apples to
virtual
apples in
nobody
that exact movie, yes.
before Aquaman, still technically was, because there was a lot of people that had never even heard of
What
her.
about-
They just saw her.
does
They didn't know
Mira have
that that's who she
any,
was.
You know,
Her
self-titled
comparison
franchise films.
of these
Not yet.
more prominent actors in comparing Amber Heard to her.
Ms. Gadot played a much bigger role in the movie they were in together, the Justice League movie.
Absolutely.
In what movie they were in together? Oh, in Justice League?
Yeah.
I haven't counted the screen time, so I can't really say.
Okay. You indicated that another person that you compared Ms. Heard with is Zendaya.
Zendaya, yeah.
Person so famous she goes by one name.
I guess when you have a name that's a Z, it works, I guess.
She's been on the Disney Channel since she's 13 years old.
Right.
Right? She's won an Emmy.
Yes, she did.
Yep.
Right. She was singing and dancing and swimming from trapezes in The Greatest Show, right?
Yes.
Yeah. She's now been in multiple Spider-Man movies.
I wouldn't know that.
She's 10 years younger than your client.
Yep. But yet you still compared her to your client.
This is a person that you deemed a comparable.
Well, as I was explaining to you how I chose them, when you look at
This is somebody that you deem
characters,
comparable.
There's not that many to pull from, so I just tried to.
There's not that many to pull from?
Characters that were in superhero movies that were about the same age range within 10 years as you've.
Scarlett Johansson.
noted me.
Can we
Thank you.
compare her to her?
And also just where her career would have gone. I said that they were comparables, they're not identical. So you can just look at what their career has done either before that superhero movie, then in others. or
Can
the
we
one
compare
we're in,
their acting
and then
skills?
you look at where her career should have gone. Even though she may not have been at the stature of a Zendaya at that
But you
time,
compared them.
You can still look at it as a comparable trajectory of what happens when you're in a blockbuster movie. It's just a reference.
Oh, get
It's
outta
not
here.
meant to be identical. They're
Get
not
outta
meant to be
here.
The same people are not even have the exact same career. It's meant to be a reference point. Simple as that.
So far, everybody we've looked at have been in more blockbuster movies than
Christy Swanson.
But
Yeah.
Ms. Heard was also in the biggest blockbuster movie, and the light that shines on Jason Momoa will also shine on her.
What is the
So
biggest
you have to
blockbuster
look
movie
at
that you're
it
talking
in
about?
context
It's number
of the
9
biggest
on
movie
comic
that
book
Disney
movies.
Comics is-
There are
and
6
also
other
one of the
comic
biggest
book
box
movies.
office films ever, probably within the top 10, because I've looked at it, right? So that light is going to shine brighter on her than someone who wasn't in that movie.
No,
And
it's
again,
going to
it
shine
just
brighter on
helps
Jason
her and
Momoa.
her
She was,
career move forward,
even
not
though a
stall
co-star,
it
she
and
was still a minor
in
character.
her world be silent afterwards.
For the
Yeah, acting
jury
skills,
to accept
role,
your damage analysis,
looks,
they would have to agree with you that Ms. Heard was on the precipice of a meteoric rise. That's the word you used, right?
Actually, no, I didn't. I did use meteoric with someone like, let's say, Gal Gadot or Zendaya, but I actually gave you a range and gave the jury a range that they weren't all going to have a meteoric rise. Some of them would be smaller, right? And so what the numbers that I gave you do not represent a meteoric rise. A meteoric rise is when Jason Momoa goes from, I don't know, 4 million, 5 million to a $50 million payday. That's a meteoric shift in our business. But when someone has contracts that actually go from 1 million to the first one, 2 million, and then 4 million, that is standard for a franchise that is perceived to do well. And so I based those calculations on very specific numbers that were already contracted. I wanted to stay within reality and look at the numbers that were already contracted for Ms. Heard and just move out forward on one film a year, maybe a TV show here or there, and some endorsement contracts, which is very typical for an actor in our business to make.
She is just flustered. He's just flustered, this woman.
The example you just used is somebody went from 1 million to 2 million to 4 million. Your client.
That's how you determine importance in a movie. Is your character expendable?
Incorrect. In the Aquaman it's actually the Justice League contract because they're associated. So Justice League, Aquaman, she was paid 1 million. Then in Aquaman 2, it was written that she was going to earn 2 million.
Because they had a larger
And
budget.
another one, it was written in the terms that she would get 4 million. So it actually was a contract that Ms. Heard signed with the studio.
Right, but the movie hasn't been made.
Aquaman 2 hasn't come out yet, so the third one is still on deck, as they say.
Yeah. So it hasn't been made. There's no script for it yet. The same argument that she made towards Johnny Depp.
Your client's never been paid
That-
$2 million for a movie.
Oh, he couldn't have lost that money because there's no
She was paid $2
script.
million for Aquaman.
Right.
Aquaman 2.
And she's never been paid $4 million.
She was contracted to be paid, and when the movie goes, that's what she will be
they had
paid. So
pledged
that's what I
to
said.
pay
She
her
was
for
on
it.
the right,
pledged.
but if Aquaman 2 does even nearly as well as Aquaman 1, there's going to most likely be a third one. So we can look at that as a precedent.
Most
that was
likely.
set
Speculation, Your Honor?
in writing, actually.
If a movie makes $795 million You think there's likely to be a next one?
If it was the first or the second one, but if it's the fifth in the series, I assume that you're referring to Pirates 5. It performed well at the box office, yes, but certainly not in comparison to some of the other ones. And that's what a studio like Disney will look at to say, has that franchise had its run?
Ma'am, in your professional opinion, do sequels tend to do better or just as good as the movies prior to that sequel?
Well, an $800 million
No,
payday
so, okay,
has
so
to
it would
be
be
put
safe
into
to assume
context to the
that
budget
there's
that
not
it
a
costs to
decline
get that
in
movie, and then the
movies
marketing
because of
thereafter, and
Mr.
with
Depp's
the
acting.
increasing costs and not only Mr.
Just
Depp's
that there's a
fee or
decline
any of the,
because it
and
is in
plus the
fact a
other
sequel.
actors' fees, plus general production costs that are getting more expensive. Then you put in the marketing
Yes,
costs, which
correct.
are sometimes 1, 2, or 3 times the budget of the film.
How come that
A film
question
like
that I just said
a
it hasn't
studio
been
can
asked?
spend $600-800 million just
That's they
making
need to
and
ask that
marketing
question
the film.
because
So
she's the
it-
expert in the marketing and
$795
the
million
and the
is a lot of
projections,
money.
right?
And it seems like a really good box office, but you have to put into perspective of what's spent on production, marketing, and the overhead costs that the studio takes. So you have, again, it's all in context of what the budget of the film and the marketing of the film is.
All right, let's put some more things in context. Ana de Armas. That's another one you used.
Yes.
All right. She,
Come on,
most
man.
recently, I guess,
Don't waste this
Deepwater
much time
with
on
Ben
this
Affleck.
lady.
I don't, again, I know some of the movies that she's been in, I don't remember about Deepwater. I don't even know if that's out yet, to be
Okay.
honest.
She was in the last.
For a
James
lady
Bond
that's
movie.
supposed to analyze
Yes,
who she's supposed to
They
be,
were
you
talking
know,
about
she's
making her
supposed
the
to be, you know, this
female Bond, right?
analyst
After her
of,
big Star
of movies.
Star Wars moment,
She
yeah,
doesn't
she's
watch
gotten a
very
lot
many
more,
movies.
big roles, which is what we had hoped from Ms. Heard.
Yeah. And you said that her breakout role was Blade Runner?
It was like the first big, studio movie that got a lot of attention. I believe that was the one that we can look at as a marker for her, sure.
Just
you
because
watch
somebody's
Blade Runner
in a movie doesn't mean it's your
did.
breakout role is going to be co-starring
Did you
and
watch the
how
movie?
you're perceived
It was years
based
ago.
on
I
that
don't
role.
remember exactly
This
what she
lady
was in.
seems
what
like she knows
role she
less
played,
and less
but
about
she was in that
Hollywood.
movie, and from that, her agents used that as
The more she
to get her more
talks.
movies.
You have no knowledge that her principal role in that movie was as a gigantic naked billboard?
Are you saying that's the only thing she was? She was a gigantic naked billboard. She
I
wasn't
said
in the
that's the
movie.
principal role in that movie.
I don't remember the movie well enough to know.
Okay. And did you know that she was, I talked a little bit about Ben Affleck, right?
Right.
He's an interesting example because he's been in a role that's been recast multiple times.
Oh yeah, I saw it.
You know that role?
We're talking about Batman?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Batman.
sure.
All right. So the title character in that DC series has seen how many actors?
Several.
Right.
6.
Michael Keaton,
He was Batman.
Val Kilmer.
You're a movie
George
buff,
Clooney.
yeah.
Yeah. And your job is to know about movies, lady.
Christian Bale was Batman.
I think he was. You're right.
George Clooney was Batman.
Definitely.
And Robert Pattinson, right? That's 6. There's been 6.
I guess Robert Pattinson is now Batman.
Oh wait, and Adam West.
Don't know.
Okay.
She doesn't know about the latest Batman
But
movie.
You're taking an absolutely
Really?
iconic role that the DC universe has recast 4, 5, 6 times, correct?
Correct.
So just because you have the role in the first movie or the second movie doesn't mean you get it in the third movie or the fourth movie.
Oh no.
Unless it's contractual.
Right. Unless it's contractual. So, now.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little confused on their
Ana de Armas, she's like
on his
the
questioning
new
here.
Marilyn
I think
Monroe on
I think
Netflix
Depp's
too, right?
attorneys are wasting too much
I
time on
believe
this
so.
lady.
She was also in Knives Out, which is probably even a bigger breakout role for her. But
Right.
again, I chose Blade Runner because it's a similar thing. You have to start somewhere. But Knives Out probably was her big moment in time.
Who are they talking about there
All right.
in Knives Out?
The other person you picked was Chris Pine. Chris Pine is in a superhero movie, Wonder Woman.
He is in Wonder Woman. He's also, well, Star Trek being a blockbuster, but not necessarily a superhero, right?
Yeah. He was in both Wonder Woman movies, right?
Yes, he plays the love interest to Godot, yeah.
Yeah. On Star Trek, in the Star Trek franchise.
Oh, Ana de
he plays
Armas.
Captain Kirk, right?
I don't remember exact role that he played. I didn't see it in the movie. I just know it from his resume.
Does she? Okay, so she's mentioning people, and she doesn't
Yes,
know
I
what
do.
they've done.
Well,
she compared actors, but so far she doesn't know what any of these actors have done.
I hate to say
Except
I'm not a Star
for
Trek
when it
fan.
comes to superhero
But
movies.
you
So that's
used
all that
Mr.
she's
Pine
researched.
as an example, irrespective of the fact you didn't even know he starred in this franchise film.
I did know that he starred. That's why I used it. Again,
in fact, he was the most prominent person in the movie.
we can go over this a couple more times, and I'm happy to do so. All I wanted to do was look
She's-
at
she's
from
getting-
a small pool
she's
of
getting
people that have
irritated.
been in huge franchise movies or superhero movies, and give you a sense of what the range is or what someone's trajectory can be. Again, they are not apples and apples. They're not both green apples or both red apples. I just was looking at a range. It's what we do. It's what we do in the industry. It's what you do to kind of get a sense of how
Well,
much.
now she's saying we're not comparing apples and apples.
Ma'am, I think my question was, did you know whether he was in Star Trek?
But
yes, and you.
But she's trying. She's trying. She's saying that these people they had breakout roles
Star
and
Trek and Wonder Woman
because they were in
mostly
popular
because he
movies,
was in Wonder
they went up.
Woman.
So therefore, she
And
should have
I
gone
don't
up.
know
She's
the
saying
exact
apples to
time
apples.
frame of which came first, but the fact that he's in both of them is consistent with what actors of this
Exactly,
ilk
Balmer.
tend to do once they're in a movie like this.
Right? She doesn't know
You're
movies,
talking
but
about breakout role,
she's
but you don't know which-
she's an
which
expert
was his
witness
breakout role.
on movie
Chris Pine's
analysis.
been an actor. He's been a well-liked actor. He was in both Star Trek and in Wonder Woman. And
Did a
Star
movie
Trek
with Denzel
started.
Washington?
Pardon?
Did a movie with Denzel Washington?
He's had a good career.
Yeah, great career.
Not that she doesn't know that his career, but
Ms. Hurt, right?
She was on the precipice of a great career.
Yeah.
She hasn't had the chance to negotiate for that yet or be in those movies yet, so we don't know yet.
We're getting back to precedent.
she's not. She wasn't on the precedence of a great career. She happened to be cast in a role
Testimony was she was on the
in one
precipice of
movie or in
meteoric
two
rise.
movies.
You said, I guess.
I didn't say meteoric. I said consistent. I don't know. She could have a meteoric rise, but I was talking about consistent with Ms. Heard.
All right.
Let's look at Tom Holland. They
So
gave him a
the-
chance to
of
be
the
Spider-Man,
actors
right?
you
Chance.
selected, two of them
And they're like, "You're it,
are the
man."
title characters in their DC movies.
It's the acting capabilities
One is
and the way that
Aquaman,
she is with
who's the
other
other
people on
title
set.
character.
And she's just been a
Gadot.
bore of a woman.
Wonder Woman, right.
Right.
She's Wonder Woman. And you mean Jason Momoa? Sure. Yeah.
So you get two title characters. You got James Kirk, and those are the people that you thought were most representative of Ms. Heard.
Again, there are not that many in the pool to pick from. I'm not going to put comparable actors that haven't been in either large, what we call tentpole movies or franchise movies or superhero movies. So I wanted to work within those.
My question is this: Why did
those are the
she
actors I chose,
specifically
yes.
grab actors that whose breakout roles was the star character that cannot be replaced to compare to her role as a
One of the
co-star
actors you chose
that
had a much
can
longer
easily
TV
be
career
replaced
than
without
Ms. Heard.
upsetting the franchise?
Again, they were all in superhero or franchise movies that did very, very well at the box office.
And there are tons of actors and actresses who are in superhero movies that don't have meteoric rises thereafter, correct?
Not when they're the lead character with Jason Momoa, but to your point, there are many actors that have no career prior to a breakout role and then have a meteoric career and have had no career prior. So you don't always just look at the past. It's helpful. And with Ms. Heard, she had good reviews, so that's what I looked at. But if you look at other actors and they have their first role and all of a sudden they become a superstar from one role. So that happens in our business. It just does.
Okay, now I gotta see this.
With respect to your comparable actors, you have no personal knowledge as to how much any of them were compensated over the period you reviewed.
Incorrect.
You have personal knowledge as to who.
Jason Momoa.
And you derive that personal knowledge from talking to somebody?
Yes,
He didn't tell you.
his agent did.
Okay. So what you will rely on what Mr. Momoa's agent told you, but you have you didn't see the contract.
No, his agent is at William Morris as well, so they told me that.
Right. And you've never seen anybody else's contracts as to what they were making.
No, but in 25 years of being in this business, I
That was an odd
understand the
echo.
basis of which actors are paid when they're in blockbuster films and then they're in large budgeted studio films. So it's not a leap to kind of understand where the actor's making. And again, I really didn't want to try to be speculative in my analysis. I wanted to work with the numbers that Amber had contracted for already and just take it from there and said if she had done one movie a year and one series and done product endorsement, that's how I got to the number. So I wasn't looking to take her on a meteoric rise. I wasn't looking to give her the same career as Jason Momoa. I took her numbers that her agents had actually negotiated and worked from there.
When you say you weren't trying to give her the same career as Jason Momoa, the TV program that she most recently did, The Stand, she made $200,000 an episode. That's what you testified to.
Correct.
And in your damage analysis, you give her $1 million an episode had the Waldman statements not occurred. And you do it only because you believe Mr. Momoa has gotten that in something that he's in.
Right.
So you are giving her the same career as Jason Momoa.
Well, again, with someone like Ms. Heard, who was in a blockbuster film with the team at William Morris, and my discussions with William Morris, that's what they were looking to negotiate for her on other projects. So I got some of that information from her management team directly.
So her agents were looking to get her as much money as possible?
I think that's the job of an agent. They usually try to get the most money as possible.
Your testimony is they were looking to get the money for her. You need somebody willing to pay on the other side of that deal, don't you?
Right, but agents are working with people in the industry and have a pulse on have a finger on the pulse of what's going on, so they know who's marketable and what the prices that all the streamers are paying these days.
You haven't seen a single one of the endorsement contracts that you referenced, other than Ms. Heard's?
No, other than again, what I was talking to William Morris in terms of the pricing that they are aware of, not only for their own clients, but what's out in the marketplace, and it's pretty consistent. And I've also worked with other actors in other cases that have gotten similar contracts, so I'm familiar with the rates of endorsement contracts.
You haven't made any reference to the actual earnings of any of these actors.
Again, as you do an analysis, you put together the numbers that you know from both your experience and the marketplace and the agents that are working in the marketplace. So together, that's how I created those numbers, and mostly using Ms. Heard's numbers specifically and giving her a very steady career, which is what she had had prior to Aquaman.
Yeah, and you don't have the prior earnings of any of the actors you looked at other than Ms. Heard's.
No, I don't have the contracts now.
You don't have any of that information.
I'm sorry?
You don't have any of that information?
No.
Okay. In fact, that information, I guess aside from Mr. Momoa's, is confidential, right?
Usually it is, yes.
Yeah. And the only reason you know anything about Mr. Momoa is that Ms. Heard shares an agent.
Right, but look, I've also been in the industry for many years, and I know what actors get paid. I talk about budgets constantly, so it's not a secret within the industry the amount that actors in those types of movies are paid very, very well.
You're not currently working as an agent for anyone, are you?
No.
So
my whole outlook on this trial, it's just, I wish they'd stop talking to this way. They've proven their point. They've proven their point that she didn't actually research. She's just throwing out names based on their roles as superheroes. She doesn't know anything about these actors prior to their roles in superheroes. How do you not know that Chris Pine was Captain James T. Kirk? Oh, she's in a seriously defensive posture right now.
Which is standard in the industry as well as with her agent specifically.
Do you know if it's standard with Warner Brothers?
I'm sorry?
Do you know if it's standard with Warner Brothers?
I don't know if it's standard at any of the studios, but it is standard for agents to renegotiate, and oftentimes are successful when the film is done so well.
Right, but what you're talking about is there's an existing
They really need
contract
they need to stop this line of
where
questioning
Ms.
with
Heard
her.
is
I mean,
making
they've proven their point.
a
They've proven their point. They've discredited her completely right
the
now.
next movie for, in this instance, $2 million, right?
Right.
And what the agent is trying to do is to get Warner Brothers
Reading.
to say,
He's getting so frustrated.
hey, you should pay her more than your
He just needs to let this go. I hate to say it, he's just got to let it go.
You like her? What?
Well, as Ms. Kovacevic said, also, it's standard in the industry. As again, I've been in the industry. I've worked with.
I swear to God, the
agents,
person
I've worked
doing
with a lot of
the
lawyers,
subtitles
and,
for this
we have
is drunk.
conversations about what is an actor getting, or what can they do, or what are they going to do the next time. So again, it's a standard of practice in the industry, especially when a film is as successful.
Yeah, absolutely, Jessica.
That the agents will go back and renegotiate. In fact, that was conversation.
Well, Mandy, the biggest thing about defamation is almost impossible.
Sure, but oftentimes
to
in a
win.
movie,
It's almost
the nature
impossible
of Aquaman, they're very successful.
because it really
Usually.
becomes a he said, she said
Your
thing.
analysis
But I don't think
assumes
Johnny
a
was looking to
renegotiation
win
with a
the actual
studio
defamation
for terms
case.
that are double
I think he was trying to get his story
what
out there to show
the
that men
studio
can be
had
abused
already got a
and
promise from Ms. Heard
to
she would
expose
work.
Amber Heard as not only a liar,
Correct.
but also a very violent, unstable individual. And if we're looking at that part of it, he's absolutely won. Go to Asmon Gold TV, Teresa. Go to Asmon Gold TV and you can watch all different parts of the trial. He's amazing to watch. Give his
Have I
perspective.
spoken to him? No.
Do you know who he is?
Yes.
Who is he?
He's a senior executive at Warner Brothers, or yeah, I think he still is there, but certainly at the time of the renegotiation, he was a senior executive.
And do you know whether he's the president of DC-based film productions?
I think that's exactly his title, yeah.
Who's in a better position to determine whether Warner Brothers would renegotiate, you or Mr. Hamada?
As again, I based this on the agents that were talking to Warner Brothers about Mr. Momoa, and they were wanting to talk.
You cannot compare Momoa's renegotiation to Amber Heard's renegotiation. She was a supporting character.
The connection should be Mr. Hamada or the agents, not Mr. Hamada and me.
Who's in a better position to know whether Warner Brothers would renegotiate?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Everything she said is speculation.
What's the stated objection?
Sorry. I didn't mean to get that excited. I'm so sorry. I'm just so tired of seeing this woman right now, you guys. I'm so tired of seeing her and hearing her.
Did you review any testimony from Mr. Hamada?
I did.
Did you understand that Mr. Hamada says that they want to hold the lawyers, hold the actors to their deals?
That was a philosophy that he said Warner Brothers had, yes.
Did you understand that Mr. Hamada said that nothing Mr. Depp did impacted her compensation?
I don't remember that part of the testimony. You have it available for me to read?
You don't know whether Mr. Hamada testified. Did anything Mr. Depp said about Amber Heard affect her compensation?
She's making me want to eat another sandwich.
Again,
and I only eat once a day.
I don't recall that testimony, no.
Do you know whether Mr. Hamada indicated whether he even knew who Adam Waldman was?
Again, I don't remember the conversation about Hamada and Waldman or Depp.
And
you remember all these statistics, but you don't remember that?
Made any statements as to whether anything Mr. Waldman
I'm just letting everybody know right now I am 100% pro Depp.
In my experience, studios don't talk about how or why they make decisions based on publicity or conversations. They're not going to try.
I'm not saying that Johnny Depp is an absolute perfect person.
That's just natural.
At all. I'm not saying that some of the things I've heard during this trial aren't horrible.
Well, even so, they're not going to say anything negative. They may bypass it by being positive, but they're not going to do anything that could potentially damage a relationship that may change
her body
and be
language
worthwhile in the
speaks
future.
volumes
So that's just
right
what a
now.
studio person does.
Mr. Hamada is in the best position to determine whether there were chemistry issues.
Apparently, only the things that help Amber Heard.
He's the president of the company.
Overruled?
I don't know how involved Mr. Hamada was on a daily basis in terms of chemistry, but I do know that Warner Brothers did a chemistry test with Ms. Heard and Mr. Momoa before she even got the role. She went in and did what they call a chemistry test. So
Yeah,
that was to actually
and as we've
see
all
whether
known,
there
she's
was
manipulative
chemistry
as shit.
and evidently there was good chemistry because
It's
she was
not hard to
hired
act.
to be the romantic interest.
It's not
So
hard to act like you're interested
whatever
in
Mr.
somebody
Hamada
else
said
and,
during his
and be nice
deposition,
and
I look
kind
at what actually
in their
happens in
face,
real life, which
and
is she got the
especially when it
chemistry
comes
test and
to
then she
trying to
got the job.
solidify a role.
Yeah, let's look what
And then be
happened in real life.
completely different once
She
you've
went in
already claimed that
before
role.
and took the test. Then she made a movie. Then there was an existing movie. Under which Warner Brothers.
I
could
believe
then
Johnny
decide
Depp is
whether
genuinely a
there was
good
chemistry,
person, but
right?
here's the thing. Just because you're a good
The movie
person
worked.
doesn't
It made
mean
over
that
$1
you're
billion,
always
and
going
then
to be
all
a
over
nice
the poster.
person.
If they did think that there was chemistry,
I
they
think a
would
lot
have
of the
put
things
Ms.
that we've
Heard on
heard
the
about Depp,
poster
you know,
next
his
to Mr.
responses and the
Momoa.
conversations
So-
and the things that
You
he's
know there were
done,
multiple
I believe a lot of
posters for
those
the
were
Aquaman
reactionary. I believe
Yes.
he was pushed
There
into
always
those
are. That's
situations to
that's
become
him.
that person.
And that 3 out of the 4 posters, the standard posters for Aquaman, didn't even feature Miss Heard.
Right, so when you make a poster at the studio, it's normal to have 3 or 4 variations because you want to appeal to different people's perspectives. So you want the
Why you
romantic
gotta?
poster, you want
Are
the
we doing
action
defamation
poster,
on me
you
now?
want the superhero poster. So it's normal for them to have many posters, but the romantic poster was of
Exactly,
Ms. Heard
Teresa.
and
Yep,
Mr. Momoa.
exactly. She has blamed everybody else for lying or it being their fault.
Like we
She's
talked about
not
with Aquaman,
claimed
but she was
responsibility for a
prominent in the
single
ones that
action
she
this
wa-
entire
that Warner
trial.
Brothers wanted to appeal to women and to the romantic interest of the consumer.
Oh God, I just can't stand this woman. I'm just so tired of seeing her.
What movies would Ms. Heard have gotten absent Mr. Waldman's statements?
Yeah, let's hear it. What ones were she turned down
The ones we know
for?
about specifically that she was in conversations with was a movie with Gail Garcelle Bernal, I believe that's how you say his name, at Amazon, which is what Ms. Kovacevic said. And she was also in consideration for a movie called Ambulance with Michael Bay. But again, after the Waldman statements, nobody would talk to the agents, and so they weren't able to garner more. Oh, she also had a movie that she was interested in producing that a good friend of hers, or a friend of hers, or
She would not have fit in the movie Ambulance anywhere.
There was at least those 3 that I read about.
Those were 3 movies that she was being considered for, but you don't know what movie she was going to be in.
Well, again, they stopped the conversation after the statement, so we don't know where they would have gone, of course, but she was in consideration.
Well, how do we know that that's not because they had already made their minds up on a different actress?
That would have helped all those movies, so it would have made a lot of sense.
You're projecting movies way out into the future that you have no knowledge would ever have gotten made.
Well, that's what you do when you talk about comparables and economic damages, you talk about the future. That's standard in our industry as a forensic expert and in the industry.
You're a forensic expert, but you didn't know Chris Pine was Captain motherfucking James T. Kirk.
What connection do you draw between Mr. Waldman's statements and the reported reduction in Ms. Heard's Aquaman 2 role?
Again, it's just it's the timing of it all. It's the timing of it all. And also, they were going to take her out of the movie after the statements, and they put her back in. And then there, can I talk about the emails that I read? I'm not sure at this point, but
you cannot.
When you say they were going to take her out of the movie, when you have an option, you literally have the option whether to include.
Oh, we're
right?
doing chips.
That's what it means.
She's making me want to eat, you guys.
So they can choose to exercise the option or not exercise the option. Entirely up to them.
correct.
And they have that particular studio, to your knowledge, has repeatedly recast even major figures in their DC movies.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that.
What about Superman?
Yeah. What about Superman?
You know, I'm not, I think I'm more familiar
There's
with
been
Batman
3
actors. I
Supermans.
think there have been a couple actors of Superman, but depending on how the movie performed, if a movie doesn't perform, they'll look for other actors. If they want to go a different direction.
No.
reboot a
If the movie
franchise,
doesn't
they will
perform,
look at
they're going to look
different
for a
actors.
new star.
So if a movie's successful,
They're going to look for a
likely
new
to change the
star. They
actors,
don't look for
especially
new
not in the
supporting
second one
actors.
Or the third one.
Another reason they'll look for a different actor or actress, if the actor or actress is charged or asking too much money to play the role again, correct?
Yep.
Yes, not in figures under $10 million, but yes.
That's not
If you're
true.
asking for too much money, you might not get your role again. And your analysis assumes that Ms. Heard
I
should
asked
double
for
her
3
money.
McChicken sandwiches
Well,
to
her
do another
contracts
movie
doubled
with
her
John
money from each
Johnson,
one to
and
the
he went
next,
with
so
somebody
it
else
wasn't
on the
that
role.
large a leap to do that, especially when the agents had told me that was what had been, they were considering and what they'd been discussing.
All right.
You
see
guys
the
want to play a
script
drinking
of
game?
Aquaman 2?
Whenever Rottenborn,
Yeah.
Whenever Rottenborn is on the stand?
Draft. I don't know what the
You
date
take a
was
shot
or
every
when
time
it
he
was or
says,
where in the
"Is that
succession of
correct?"
the rewrites it was.
Or
I
is
did
that
see
right?
one draft, yes.
You don't know what Warner Brothers has in mind for that movie in terms of the kind of movie it's going to be?
It's a superhero movie.
Right. It's supposed to be like a buddy comedy, right?
I don't know. I don't know about a buddy comedy. It's an action movie, superhero movie. I don't know.
Who's Patrick Wilson?
Patrick Wilson. I've heard that name in terms of an actor, but I don't know Mr. Wilson.
Do you know if he appears in Aquaman?
Again, I don't know him by name. If you want to show me a picture, I can, or a clip from the movie.
All right.
Yes, because they have those keyed up.
More frequently in Aquaman than your client does.
I didn't count the screen time when I watched the movie. It was a long, even when I watched it again, I didn't count the screen time of anybody else.
She doesn't know Patrick Wilson, the man from Insidious, Watchmen,
Did you read
Midway,
the testimony of Mr. Hamada?
Annabelle Creation.
We discussed that, yes.
Like the
You
nun,
disregarded all of it in your
Aquaman's
analysis
brother.
as to her ability to renegotiate, correct?
What?
Well, I remember the part where Mr. Hamada said that from time to time they will break.
At
their
what point in
philosophy
time
and
can we
renegotiate.
stop
It's what they did with
discrediting this
Jason
woman
Momoa and
as
with Gal
an
Gadot.
expert
So,
in this field?
That just goes. It coincides with what we know in the industry, which is it can be done.
It's what they did with the.
She's probably going to say that his. Oh yeah, I know who that is. His role skyrocketed after.
Again, I worked in the business for a long
after
time,
Aquaman
and
as
I've
well.
seen a lot of actors renegotiate their careers. I'm sorry, not their careers. Renegotiate their fees. It's common practice. And it's
Exactly,
certainly what the
Kate.
agent will
That's
think
my
about
point.
first when a
She
movie
doesn't
makes a
know
billion plus
people
dollars.
in her line of
Again,
work.
Focused on the agent, but it's the studio that pays the bills.
Yes.
Right. All right.
Oh, that's.
Your Honor, I have a
You guys see that?
more to do.
You see that?
Continue.
I'm sorry?
Continue.
She is uncomfortable
Okay.
right now.
I didn't know if we were going to 5:30 today or not.
Every day is 5:30 day.
Okay.
Oh no!
We may not
We only
need-
got 30
need to
minutes left. I thought
Every day is 5:30.
I thought Johnny was supposed to testify today. Shit.
All right. You talked about Ms. Heard's endorsement deal with L'Oreal.
Yes.
Damn it! You're gonna have to
And
wait
the-
for tomorrow for Johnny.
L'Oreal has concerns about using her because every time they try to use her, people respond negatively to her.
People don't. The Depp fan base has responded. Have posted negative things about Ms. Heard on their campaigns.
So, did you say the Depp fan base?
Well, people that were using the hashtags that were consistent with the rest of the Depp fan base.
Yeah, but there are people posting negative things that, other than things that came from Mr. Waldman, correct?
I haven't seen all I was just looking at what L'Oreal discussed and what L'Oreal said in.
They've wasted. I'm not gonna lie, guys. They wasted too much time on her.
They made
But then again,
Superrealm
if
make a
memory serves me
word cloud
correctly,
of the words that were
Johnny
most,
Depp's lawyers have
commonly associated
nothing but
with
time.
Ms. Heard in its marketing campaigns?
I knew they did that. I didn't see it myself, actually.
Do you know what words there were?
Again, no.
At this point in time, I'm
You
wondering
didn't
if she
talk
even
much
knows the
about this,
people
but in order
that
to
she
get
was
to the
mentioning
damage
before.
analysis that you got the $45 million.
I'm
at
confused
least
as to this woman's
initially
credibility.
You suggested that Ms. Heard would have a role producing and starring in a movie, and that she would make $12 million.
I've talked about that, but in the latest calculation, that was really less what I considered and more about what films and TV and endorsement deals that she would do. The producing was something that she had wanted to do. And again, Mr. Momoa got that. So that's where the agents were discussing those figures with me.
The last movie that she has a production credit for is in 2013, right?
Again, I haven't memorized her resume.
There's a movie called Syrup. Did you ever hear of it?
No. Aside from having probably seen it on her IMDb.
And Soon the Darkness, that's her other production credit, right?
I'll if you say so.
Yep, she read about them on Twitter.
Yes.
She's seen their names.
Okay.
12 years ago. But you, at least at some portion of
Where's the rum gone?
Analysis, were of the mind.
Where's the rum gone?
She would recover $12 million with a producing role and a starring role.
They have
Because
hammered
that's
in
what
their
Mr.
point
Momoa
so heavily
Again,
at
the
this
agents
point.
were just saying that those were the kinds of numbers they were looking at to help her as she moved forward in her producing career.
Those are the
Mr.
kind of
Mumru.
numbers the agents would like her
Mr.
to get.
Mumru.
Right, but again, I didn't use that in the final
Who is the
analysis
drunk
of my
person
45
typing
million. So
this
it
commentary?
was just a discussion point because that's what the agents wanted me to consider.
All right. All right. You have testified that the breakout role for Ms. Heard.
I wonder why they stopped
was
doing
on,
the split screen between.
I didn't say the
Did one of their
breakout
cameras
role,
go
but I
down?
used it as this, a movie that it was a superhero kind of super box office.
I just
success.
noticed that. Anybody else
I
notice that
think
they stopped doing the
some
split
of her
screen?
other critically acclaimed movies probably helped her break into that role, which would have been The Danish Girl, and then her work in Justice League, which was a natural progression to getting to star in Aquaman.
All right. But I used breakout. Perhaps you didn't. But this is the movie that springboards her to the kind of money that you are suggesting she should earn.
It should have, yes.
And other than Aquaman, which was released in 2018, how many movies has she booked?
Yeah.
Well, she booked Aquaman 2.
Right.
And she did The Stand, which was a significant television show.
Right. But outside of the Aquaman franchise, she obtained only one movie role, since 2018, right?
Right, the industry also knows that she's planned to be on the next movie and they understand her production schedule, so she's not going to go after films that.
Yeah, I noticed that, Jessica.
Mega box office movie, so they're scheduling.
She uses those words
as well.
synonymously.
She and her team would consider.
So from, when was Aquaman released in 2018?
But here we are.
It was either December 2018 and then, it depends on where it was in the world. It started in December 2018 and then it moved out, into 2018.
How many months between December 2018 and the Waldman statements went by?
Here it comes.
12, I think, 15 or 16 if my math is correct.
So in 15 to 16 months, she didn't get any other significant work because of Waldman's statements, apparently.
16-month period during the entirety of the post-Aquaman boost, right?
She got The Stand.
Right.
And then she was in discussions for the films as they were getting ready to go.
But she didn't get another role for 16 months between the release of Aquaman and what you say are the Waldman statements.
Well, she got The Stand,
Right. She got one TV role.
She got one role.
a pretty significant TV role, yes, for a Stephen King novel.
Right. She was in a movie, though.
I'm sorry?
She was in a movie that was released after Aquaman.
What movie are you referring to?
Gully.
Oh, well, I don't know when that was shot, so you'd have to tell me when it was shot. Movies get released at different timeframes. Like, they can be shot in 2016 and not get.
Your job as a forensic expert in
You'd have to tell me.
Hollywood.
We'd have to look at, the actual filming.
How do you
dates
not
of
know the
Gully
timeline?
For me to talk to you about that?
She wasn't initially cast in Gully, was she?
I'm not familiar with the casting process of Gully.
All right. Do you know who Alice Eve is?
Who?
Alice Eve.
Alice Eve.
You can just now barely
Sounds
hear
familiar,
me.
But I'm not recalling who she is. at
She's
this
an
time.
actress, been in.
Does anybody else
a
have
number of movies.
difficulty hearing me right now?
She is.
Again, I know her name, but I don't know her resume.
She's in Star Trek.
Great.
Right. She was in one of those breakout roles, Star Trek, but you don't even know who she is.
I talked to you about Star Trek before. I'm not a big Star Trekian.
Okay.
A big Star Trekian.
Ms. Heard replaced Alice Eve in the movie Gully, right?
I don't know the casting process. I don't know who's starring that movie.
Do you know what she was paid?
Who?
Ms. Heard.
For Gully?
Yeah.
Can you tell me when that was in? No, I don't. But what was the filming date of, and what was the start date of Gully?
Let's find out.
You didn't look at the Gully contract when you were making an analysis of Ms. Heard's damages?
I don't recall whether I looked at it or not.
It was in 2019 is when it was released.
Did you understand that she was making $2,190 per week for Gully?
Can you tell me when it was shot? When does that contract get negotiated? It's relevant.
And she was a supporting
The
cast
contract is
member.
negotiated
I've never even heard of it.
prior to the release of Aquaman.
Okay.
And it was given 1.7
So she
out of
signs
10
this
stars. Can we
contract
attribute that was because of
$21.90.
Amber Heard?
Is there do you know what the Screen Actors Guild low budget agreement minimum scale is?
It changes from year to year. It depends on what year and what the size of the budget. There's actually 3 or 4 different scale.
See, and now she brings in the size of the
when there's a
budget.
low budget, it can be
Determines
a
like
micro
what you're going to
budget,
get
it can be a
paid.
minimum
But
budget,
she
and
just
low
said
budget.
she
There's
should
like
be
4 or 5
paid $4
different
million
scales that they use
regardless.
when it gets to anything other than a studio film. And oftentimes
There
actors
it
do
is.
passion projects and
Get
that has
her to-
nothing to
get
do
her to
with-
step
something
backwards
that
on
they
her
really love
own
to do,
words.
Or they think that would be good for the career. It doesn't have anything to do with the fee made on the film.
All right.
Don't waste any more fucking time on this lady. You
What's
just
a
got
loan
her
out?
to admit that there's no
A
way
loan out-
that
a loan
you
out
can
is
say
the corporation
objectively
that
Amber should have gotten
an
$4 million
actor will
for
use so that
every
their money
role
comes in through
thereafter
a
Aquaman.
corporation, and then that corporation technically loans out the actor's services to the production. So the loan out is the corporation that the actor uses, and then they loan out the services to the production company. It's just really for tax purposes.
Do you know of any movie?
Does anybody else agree that this is what you
that
see right now?
Ms. Heard booked immediately prior
A little bit of tap dancing going on.
Aquaman, other than Gully?
Well, I know she did Justice League. I don't remember the dates and times of the filming of the other ones. You always have to look at.
No, I don't believe she was at all.
Um,
I don't believe she was.
You talked about Mr. Schnell. Gully was in his chart, right?
I don't remember where Gully was.
Right. Did you look closely at his chart?
Pardon?
Did you look closely at his chart?
At Mr. Schnell's chart?
Yeah.
I looked at the numbers with respect to the social media campaigns is what I was looking at Mr. Schnell for.
Okay. Do you know whether any of the dates of the Waldman statements even appear in Mr. Schnell's chart?
I don't remember.
God, every movie this woman's been in is like a 5 or 6 or below. She's in multiple
You talked a little bit
1-star movies on IMDb.
scores.
I think Spade versus Psy got better ratings than half
Yes.
of her movies.
For Ms. Heard, Mr. Banya used Q scores from immediately after Aquaman, right?
Again, if you want to show me something, I can answer. I don't remember every word of Mr. Banya's, but I remember talking about the dates with you earlier.
All right. But you don't know as you sit here today whether the Q scores that Mr. Banya used were after Aquaman but before the Waldman statements?
He used a couple different scores based on dates. I don't remember if they were correlated to the statements or not. I remember years more than anything else. Again, I looked at thousands and thousands of pages of documents, so I don't remember exactly what he said.
Even before the Waldman statements, Ms. Heard had very high negative Q scores. Isn't that correct?
Very negative high Q scores?
No, very high negative Q scores.
As I said, very high negative Q scores. I remember discussions of a lot of Q scores. I don't remember exactly.
Oh, but you don't remember hers, but you remember Johnny's without a problem, right?
So in your analysis, you didn't consider Ms. Heard's negative Q scores as a restraint on what she might earn on a going forward basis?
No, Q scores change all the time. Ms. Heard's IMDb score has been 1, and it's been 300. Mr. Depp's Q score has
I
been
doubt
1,
that her
it's been 2.
IMDb Q score has
Q scores
ever
change all
been
the time.
1. I want them to
Based
find that
on
information, bring her back up
current
on
events
testimony.
and movie
And
releases.
be like, you said that as a forensic expert, that you know that Amber Heard's Q score was at one point in time a 1.
Mr. Depp.
Evidence here shows that at no point in time was she ever a 1. That means that she's the number 1
Did you talk, who's Jerry Bruckheimer?
queued up person
Who's Jerry
on
Bruckheimer?
IMDb.
The producer of the
At
Pirates
no
franchise.
point in time was that
He's a
ever.
huge producer
There's
of
no
a lot
way.
of movies, but he happens to be the producer of the Pirates franchise.
You didn't talk to him prior to your testimony?
Personally, no.
No. And you didn't have other
I
people
agree,
talk to
Jessica.
him on your behalf, did you?
Yeah, they bring back the split screen
me
15
personally,
minutes
no,
before
I
the
did
end of the
not
trial.
talk to Mr.
Good nose pick,
Bruckheimer.
Johnny.
And you've never spoken with Mr. Bruckheimer about why Mr. Depp has not appeared in a 6 pirate movie?
There has been no 6 pirate movie. There is not a Pirates movie titled Pirate 6 yet.
Right.
Forever.
But you haven't talked to Mr. Bruckheimer as to whether Mr. Depp was going to appear in the movie?
From things that I've read in newspaper publications and emails, I've read that Mr. Bruckheimer was uncertain whether Mr. Depp would star in.
So based on hearsay,
But you haven't talked.
you've made your, okay.
And you've never spoken with Sean Bailey about this, right?
No.
Or anyone at Disney?
I actually put a call into somebody at Disney and they didn't want to talk on the record.
All right, you called somebody at Disney and they didn't want to talk to you.
No, again, as I said, studios don't want to talk about their stars, whether they want to preserve a relationship that may or may not be used in the future.
I just don't, why is she still there?
So you have no personal knowledge
Why is she
Mr.
still on
Depp
the stand?
hasn't made a 6 pirate movie?
Well, as I said, there is no 6 pirate movie.
Right.
Right.
You don't know why. You have no personal knowledge why.
I don't work at Disney now.
Did you listen to Mr. Wiggum's testimony in this trial?
I read Mr. Wiggum's testimony.
And Mr. Wiggum said Mr. Depp had a deal for the movie, right?
I think Mr. Wiggum did. The other agent, Mr. Carino, said he did not. And as there is no Pirates movie, there have been no deals negotiated.
I think they are, Kate, rather than give it up over to bring Johnny up for like all 15 minutes. Although I would have preferred, I would have preferred that they end and toss it back over to Amber's team to get them to waste the end of the time for the trial.
You've indicated that a portion
Because
of the
this
reason
line of questioning could have easily
that,
ended
Mr.
20
Depp
minutes ago. Easily ended 20 minutes
has
ago.
received has received a variety of negative comments in Hollywood is that he engages in lawsuits.
Make them re-cross-examine her based on the
the
questions that they've already asked.
elements that has contributed to a lot of negative press and attention is due to the lawsuits, and the activity and the behaviors that we talked about earlier have been brought into the limelight.
Mr. Depp's lawsuit here has generated negative publicity for Ms. Heard, correct?
Yes.
That lawsuit, until she's filed a counterclaim, didn't relate to the Waldman statements, did it?
Mr. Depp's lawsuits?
Yeah.
No, we talked about that. It was pertaining to the her op-ed piece.
Right. It related to what
Pardon?
Ms. Heard said.
I'm sorry.
This, Mr. Depp's lawsuit relates to what Ms. Heard said and not to what Mr. Waldman said.
Not what, well, it related to the op-ed piece that Ms. Heard wrote.
Right. So Mr. Waldman's statements have no connection to the negative publicity that Ms. Heard
Oh, we're circling back to this. Okay.
has received relative to this trial, correct?
Objection calls for speculation, foundation, hearsay, and outside the scope.
Yes, Kate Moss will be in on Wednesday is the projected day for
Looking
Kate
for a
Moss.
causal connection here.
Sustained the objection. Next question.
When was the last time you met with Ms. Heard?
I only met Ms. Heard at lunch today.
Okay, that's the first time you talked to her.
First time I met her.
Okay.
That's not what he asked.
What's your compensation for testifying here today?
For a testimony, it's $650 an hour.
$650 an
What has
hour?
been your compensation to date?
I'm in the wrong line of work.
The assistance that you have in this case.
I've been working on the case for about 3 years, and over the 3 years, I believe it's around $60,000.
You said 60?
Yeah, over 3 years.
All right. I have no further questions.
All right, redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I'm going to make it definitely fit within that 5:30. Ms. Arnold, you were asked a number of questions about the different social media, the negative, and how do you know that it relates to the Waldman Depp statements? Do you recall all those questions?
Yes.
Okay. The social media that was connected, and some of that was your testimony, some Jessica Kovacevic, and some of it was Mr. Schnell, actually tracked the language from the 3 statements from Waldman, correct?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
Okay. What, if any, efforts?
What,
were
if
made
any? She always comes
to
back with what,
track
if
the
any.
negative social media that caused the damages that you've attributed?
Objection leading.
Overruled.
So L'Oreal did a lot of research. William Morris did a lot of research. Mr. Schnell did a lot of research. And in those conversations, those were also connective tissues to the negative social media campaign and the Waldman statements.
Not 3 years, Graham.
Back to those 3 statements.
Did she
Yes.
say 30 years?
And what, if any, connection did they have?
Or
to
20
those
years?
3 statements?
Again, we talked about this earlier. We talked about.
Welcome to the end of the live, we
being
done?
Similar, we talked about the Waldman or the Waldminian. So there were a lot of connective tissues between the negative social media campaigns and the Waldman statements.
Okay. And I'm going to jump because I think this is part of this. So you were asking questions about Mr. Hamada. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And asked whether he testified.
Oh, she's been hired for 3 years. Yeah.
Whether anything.
In 3 years, and
Depp
she's
said
going to
or
use
whether
Chris
Mr.
Pine's
Waldman
name, and
said
she
had
doesn't know
anything
that
to
he
do
was
with
Captain James T.
their
Kirk.
initial decision not to exercise the option to Aquaman 2. Do you recall that testimony? For that, those
The
questions?
questioning, yes.
Okay, now, the testimony from Mr. Schnell tracked the 1.2 million tracers to January 2021, correct?
Objection leading.
Do you remember what month that was until?
Right, so when Mr. Schnell did his analysis, it was from April of 2020 to January 2021.
And when did Warner Brothers tell Amber Heard and her agents they were not exercising her Aquaman 2 contract?
It was in February of 2021.
And what, if anything, did Mr. Hamada say about whether the reason they did that was
But
because of the 1.2
But Disney
million
came out and said that
negative
it had nothing to do with
social
Amber
media
Heard's
Instagrams and other
statement saying that
communications
Objection, no foundation.
Johnny
had
Depp
any impact.
wasn't being hired back.
Next question.
Are you aware of whether he said anything about that?
I recall in the Warner Brothers file.
Objection hearsay.
Sustained.
There it is. You know.
Do you know whether that had any impact?
Objection hearsay.
I'm asking now, she's allowed to rely on hearsay.
Sustained
What?
the objection. Next question.
She's not allowed to rely on
You
hearsay.
asked a whole lot of questions about the different comparables. And so I'm just going to go to this again. Of all the different movies, of all of those comparables, which movie was the highest grossing of all of them?
Again, I believe it's Aquaman. I mean, everybody talks about Aquaman being one of the highest, if not the highest grossing films. Certainly the highest DC comic film in that superhero world. But again, I don't want to say it was the highest, but I think it was very close to it.
Do you know whether Walter Hamada admits it was the highest grossing DC film?
Yes, he said that, yes.
Okay, so when you're looking
DC
at all
film.
the comparables,
DC
what,
film.
if any, relevance is there to the degree of success of that DC superhero movie?
Objection foundation.
She can speak to that, Your Honor. That's
I'm following quite a bit of what's going on in the
Do you
Ukraine.
know the answer to that question? Do you know?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
I forgot it. No, I have to admit. Okay.
She
So
forgot her
let's
own
go back.
question? She forgot her own
so
question?
What if, do you know
Elaine.
whether it makes a difference? Whether
Jesus.
how successful
Go back to split
that
screen so we
DC
can see people
superhero
laughing
movie
at her.
is in what types of films they'll be able to get in the future?
Objection foundation.
I'm asking the
Objection speculation.
If you want to ask the foundation, go ahead.
I'm sorry, that's what I thought I was asking. Do you know whether that plays any role, the degree of success?
Customarily, when a film,
Objection foundation.
Ask her how she knows.
How do you know?
in 25 years of being in the film
Did the
industry, it's
judge just
customary
give
for when
Elaine
movie
a gimme?
does such an extraordinary
The judge
amount at
just
box
gave
office.
Elaine a
It shines
gimme.
a very bright
She's
light
like,
on the actors,
ask her how
especially if
she
they're in
knows.
lead roles.
Jesus Christ,
And
do I
it's
need to do the
customary
job
that
for
they
you?
will get, not customary, it is, I don't want to use the word standard, but it is very frequent that a star in a movie that has performed
No,
so well
Aquaman got
box
over
office
1 billion
and with
worldwide.
the role model character that Mira was, that she would have gotten other roles and worked quite a bit afterwards, and that movie would have helped her career. I mean, that's no question.
And with all these comparables, when you gave the range to
Dark
this
Knight
jury of
Rises
45 to 50
got
million
$1 billion as well,
and
but it was
estimating this
outdone by
over
100
this
and-
period of time.
just under
Did
100
you
million.
put Amber Heard's estimated damages ranges above all those other comparables?
No, again, I was very specific. And
Like, how bad of a lawyer do you need to be for the
negotiated
judge
rates that Ms. Heard's
to
agents
like
were able to
tell
get
you
for
how
her
to
in
how
that
to ask your
contract and
question?
use that as a precedent. So again, I always wanted to be grounded in what Ms. Heard actually was in contract for and what her agents negotiated. And I used that as the baseline for the financial numbers of her loss. I used the comparable actors to show how consistently they all worked and how their careers moved forward after being in a box office.
Yeah, but they
You asked about Disney.
but they
and,
were all established actors
again.
prior to. They were
What's
already
anyone
established
do you have of whether
before
Disney
their
is willing to pay
blockbuster
Mr. Depp
role, as she
$300
wants to call it.
million and a million alpacas?
Objection, no foundation.
I'm asking her, what, if anything, does she know about whether Disney is?
If you can lay a foundation.
Okay. Did you listen to or did you read the Disney testimony in this case?
I did, yes.
All right. what do you recall Disney saying about whether they were willing to pay Mr. Depp $300 million and give him 1 million alpacas?
They would not be willing to pay $300 million and give him alpacas.
I love that. I love it.
You were asked about the defecation. What, if any, recollection?
I can show Elaine how it's done without a law degree.
About whether that social media negative campaign that you've testified had the words defecation in it or poop?
Objection, no foundation.
I know that the word poop and the hashtag poop is used.
Okay. Was that in any
Move to strike.
Sustain the objection, move to strike. Next question.
You got 3 minutes, Elaine. Better make them good.
Social media campaigns and the negative social media campaigns that you testified to with this jury that include the L'Oreal, that include the WME, that include Mr. Snell, and include what you've done.
Nobody's sure what the fuck she's done.
What do you have of how many of those that are influencing your connections to the defamation statements include the words poop or defecation?
Objection, compound.
Overruled.
I don't believe poop was one of the hashtags that was connected to the.
Nope, it wasn't.
Okay, thank you.
It wasn't. But Amber Turd was, and they said it aloud in court again today.
You
I
were
love it.
asked about the time period between the defamatory statement.
She did have a very
release of
forgettable role.
Aquaman
She's
2,
easily replaceable.
in December 2018.
Aquaman 1.
Aquaman 1, thank you. And the defamatory statements that were in
Put
April
Jennifer Garner in there.
2020 and June 2020. Do you recall that testimony?
I remember that questioning, yes.
Okay. During that time, were you aware of whether Aquaman 2 was in discussions with Amber Heard about scheduling the filming of Aquaman 2?
In the period between the statements and.
Before. I'm going before.
Okay,
I'm
sorry.
talking about the period of time when they released Aquaman 1.
Okay.
And the April 8th, first of the defamatory statements.
Right.
Do you know whether whether Warner Brothers was in discussions already with Amber Heard about scheduling her for Aquaman 2?
Objection, hearsay.
Do you know? I'm asking her whether you know.
I'll sustain it as the hearsay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you have
exactly.
knowledge of whether Aquaman was in discussions with Amber during that period?
Objection, hearsay.
I don't know. But I'm asking. Right.
Elaine, back to her studying, or stuttering.
How would you know?
Well, Amber received an early draft of the script. Amber's agents were in discussion.
Objection, hearsay.
I think she can say that.
Sustained.
Okay.
I love it when they get. I love it when they get Elaine all flustered.
What does that mean?
Show me the split screen of Elaine
For
getting
experience.
flustered.
In my experience with the movie, as
Give me
high
that.
profile as
Give
something
that back to
Aquaman,
me.
They keep the scripts very tight. You know, they don't let anybody read them. They're numbered. They have your name on it. So if you're getting a script for a movie such as Aquaman that's kept tightly close to the vest, if you will, by the studio, you are going to, they want you to be in the movie. Otherwise, they would never give you the script.
And so if a script was given to Amber Heard before the first April 8, 2020.
And I love Elaine is always like
what
a
would
kid
that
arguing
suggest?
why they
Based
can't,
on
why they
your-
should be able to have a
Based
snack
on your knowledge.
when
that
she
you
gets shut
just
down. She's like,
testified to.
Objection,
Your Honor,
speculation.
she's
It's
allowed
not
to.
speculation.
Overruled.
Your Honor,
Again,
it's
if
not
she got the script,
speculation.
they were going
It's
to use
not
it.
speculation.
Okay.
God.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is this witness subject to recall?
Oh, absolutely
Your
not.
Honor.
All right.
What?
So you're still an expert, so you can.
Oh
have
my
a
God,
seat
she's
in the
still
courtroom.
subject to
I'm still
recall.
picking
Fuck
on you.
you
So,
guys.
Thank you.
thank you.
Don't bring her back.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's come to the end of our day. All right, so please do not do any outside research tonight and don't talk with anybody about the case, okay? And we'll see you in the morning,
This poor
bright and
judge.
early at 9 o'clock, right? Okay.
Bright and early, 9 o'clock. And now the jury's left. Are they leaving?
All right, just a few planning notes, okay? After testimony tomorrow, and we've excused the jury, we'll go ahead and have the proffers that you requested, Mr. Rottenborn. We'll do those tomorrow after, is that okay?
Oh, we get
That's
Mr.
all right.
Rottenborn tomorrow.
All right, we'll do those right after, like right now, tomorrow. Okay.
This poor judge.
With the proffers that you need to do for the record, okay? All right, and then whenever all the testimony is done, possibly at this point, it would be Thursday afternoon after the jury is excused. We'll go over the remaining jury instructions. I have 3 under advisement. We'll take up those. And we'll also, if there's any other from the evidence this week that we need to talk about, we can discuss those as well after the jury's gone on Thursday evening, or if earlier, if the evidence is done before then, okay? And just as time's up to this minute, the plaintiff has used 45 hours and 24 minutes.
So they still have 15 hours?
Used 57 hours and 6 minutes.
They have 3 hours left.
Left 15 hours and 51 minutes, and the defendant has 4 hours and 9 minutes left, okay? So
4 hours left compared to Johnny Depp's team having 15 hours left.
Last witness, it appears
Holy,
is on the plaintiff's witness list is Mr. Depp, and I was just hoping we would get an answer as to what.
Defendant's witnesses?
Yeah, defendant's witness list.
I don't know. Are
was
you
hoping
still
to get an answer.
changing witness? I'm not sure. Okay. Make a decision in the morning, okay? All right, everybody have a good evening. All right, thank you.
Woo! Wow. Okay, so $15 hours is what they have left in comparison to Amber's attorneys. 4 hours. Amber's attorneys are probably going to waste that 4 hours within the next day and a half. This is really good news for Johnny's attorneys. And the reason why is they are presenting their rebuttal witnesses later on in the week. So if they continue, first of all, if the defendants bring up Johnny Depp tomorrow, we all know how slow of a talker Johnny is, right? We know he has pauses. He has all sorts of things. He's going to waste a lot of their time. I think they've already actually said that they will not testify. They will not testify. And that should speak volumes. No, it does not include closing remarks. They each get 2 hours for closing remarks. But this is detrimental to Amber Heard's case. The fact that they are down to 4 hours and I think what'd she say, 15 minutes? That's huge. That's huge. 4 hours to 15 hours. That's going to be a ridiculous amount of time. They bring Johnny up on the stand, they could potentially lose 2 hours with just Johnny on the stand. They have a total of 4 hours over the next 2 days. So if they don't at least save some time for Kate Moss, who's projected to be on the stand on Wednesday. Oof. Oof. This, wow. So I don't know. What's everybody's opinions right now? Like where does everybody stand as far as now? Like I said, defamation of character is nearly impossible to win. It is. It's nearly impossible to win. I don't actually have high hopes for Johnny Depp to win the defamation. Which in all honesty, I don't believe that's his intention really to begin with anyway. I really think he just wanted the story to be put out. And I think he wanted to expose Amber for her lies. They could possibly burn 4 hours tomorrow. Oh, yeah. Oh, I can't wait until he laughs at Mr. Rottenborn again. And they systematically dismantled each one of the expert witnesses that were brought in on behalf of the defense today. They absolutely did. Dr. Street Value and this last witness. You're talking about somebody that was hired for 3 years to be a forensic analysis. And she comes up with comparable actors and actresses that are not comparable. You're talking every name that she brought up, she's like, and they continue to climb. So therefore Amber should have been able to climb. These are all people that had significant careers before their superhero movie roles. So, like they all had significant careers before their superhero movie roles. There's not a single person that didn't have a significant career prior to their movie role in a superhero movie. They're all well-known good actors. And you're going to compare Amber Heard to any of them? What movie has she been in that's been a huge success because of her or her acting prior to Aquaman, where she wasn't even a co-star. She was a supporting role. And to come in there and try to say that, the Waldman statements is what made it so that she can't get another role. You can't prove that. You can't prove causation just because it coincides with the time frame. Wasted time. 4 hours. They wasted an easy 3 hours out of their last remaining 7 today on those witnesses. They're just, and you know what? And I'm sure that they thought that, hey, on the last week of evidence, we're really going to pull out the big guns. We're going to bring out some expert witnesses. And all these expert witnesses is their character witnesses based on their field to provide testimony on their opinion of either what they've learned, their interpretation of court transcript, their interpretation of data that they seemingly collected, or their interpretation of hospital records. Nothing was proven today on behalf of Amber's team. Nothing. Everything was speculative. Everything that was said today was speculative. There wasn't 1 ounce of proof that was given by anybody on the witness stand today. Not a single one. And here's the best part. Teresa said, the trial of Amber Turd is a movie she will be known forever. Here's the thing and if they ever make that a movie, the best part is almost any actress that they hire for that would be a better actress choice than Amber Heard herself. Because I doubt Amber Heard would be able to recreate her horrible acting in this trial. Oh yeah, the doctor, the psychiatrist, extremely hostile witness, but only towards cross-examination. Only towards cross-examination. The amount of hostility that doctor had, and the amount of unprofessionalism when he was asked if what's his name? What's the name of the actor? Good God, why can't I remember? From The Godfather and so on and so forth. Did he ever wear an earpiece? He was like, isn't he dead? You just threw all professionalism out the window. And by the way, I'd like to point out he did have to wear an earpiece in several movies because he'd never bothered to learn his lines. Apocalypse Now, everything. he was consistently drunk showing up to set, and and he had to read off of cue cards for his entire role in Apocalypse Now. But I'm going to leave it at that, guys. Do you guys want me to start off mid-afternoon again tomorrow, or do you guys want me to try to see if I can get started at 9 o'clock? I mean, I do have stuff to do with the goats and everything. You know, I can just put in a little box, you know, please stand by. I'll be back soon. Better acting in Showgirls. Oh my God. So what time would you guys like me to return tomorrow? Bright and early? Okay, I can try 9 o'clock. It's usually the time that we're swapping out dogs. We're feeding the animals. We're out feeding the goats and stuff like that. So I can certainly try. I can't make any promises on it, but you guys would prefer to watch with me? Okay. I'll do my best to get everything set up and started by 9 o'clock. And we got a whole day ahead of ourselves tomorrow. When they go on to lunch break, I'll end the stream and we'll restart it again after lunch tomorrow. Do you see what I deal with? Do you see what I deal with at this house? You guys. Every day. Every day. This dog. All right. So tomorrow, since Rottenborn is going to be on the stand, we're looking at a day drinking day. Have your drinks ready, because it's going to be a drink every time Rottenborn says, "Is that right?" or "Is that correct?" That'll be tomorrow. May God have mercy on all of our souls. So with that being said, guys, be good to one another. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for the likes and the views. And I think this was fun, kind of going over and discussing everything. So I appreciate the support. I love you guys. And we will see you tomorrow. See you guys.